Springer, right?
And welcome to Atlanta, Georgia. You saw a shot of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and inside that stadium tomorrow at 4 o'clock, about 25 hours from now, these coaches, Lincoln Riley and Ed Orgeron, will bring their teams to the CFP semifinals. We are at the College Football Hall of Fame in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. So pleased to be coming to you today from the Hall of Fame. And guess what? The LSU folks showed up. The Oklahoma folks showed up. Well, all right, they're here. Very good. Very good. Again, Tony Barnhart sitting in for Paul Finebaum. I want you to know that I traded messages with Paul today, and he's anxious to be back in this chair. Sends his regard. He is doing well after sort of a bout with some kidney stones, but Paul is doing well. Just want you to know that. We have an absolutely full show today here from the College Football Hall of Fame, so why don't we get it kicked off right now with our opening headlines, shall we? All right. Coach Ed Orgeron thinks Aileen Clyde's Edward Hilaire will play. I don't know. It sure doesn't look that way to me. Our Harley Roga had a chance to catch up with Coach Orgeron.
Coach Orgeron, just a few hours until game time, and I know it's been a game time decision for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. What do you know now that you can tell us?
I think he's going to try to play. Whether he can play the whole game, 1 or 2 plays, we don't know, but we're going to let him go, see what he can do.
What have you learned that you can do without him if he's not able to play?
We're going to use all 3 backs. All 3 have different skill sets. Clyde's a tremendous player, but these guys will be ready to go.
That's one piece of your offense. What else can you rely on that you really know you can rely on in this moment?
Joe Burrow.
Enough said. Thank you, Coach.
Well, speaking of Joe Burrow and the Oklahoma defense, whoever plays running back for LSU is looking at a defense that's had some trouble stopping the run. They better than they were a year ago under Alex Grinch, but 33rd in the FBS, 56 yards per rush, 4.0. Rushing touchdowns, 18, tied for 56. We'll see. This is going to be an interesting part of this game. What does LSU do with the running back if Clyde Edwards-Helaire cannot go? Piece by Ross Dellinger in Sports Illustrated. Ross will be with us later on in the show. Transfer-heavy playoff could be college football's new normal. The fact that 3 of the 4 quarterbacks in this college football playoff started somewhere else in their career, and we're going to talk to Ross about that. All right, Texas Bowl, Texas A&M, Oklahoma State, SEC Bowl season starts tonight. Storyline for this, is this the first game of next season for the Aggies? We'll see. Here's what Jimbo Fisher had to say about that.
It's a great feeling because it sends you off in the offseason with a great positive note, and you want to win the bowl game and you want to play well. But it's still 2 different football teams. I don't care what that group. This is the last time this group of guys will ever play on a football field together. See, when you put that in perspective, you don't think about that. I mean, this exact group of guys, this is the last time they'll ever play together. So that dynamic of that team is right now. You want to end it great for them. It's a great positive experience for your guys learning how to prepare for a bowl game, how to mentally get ready, how to have the preparations. Because that's an art. Listen, we're the only sport in America that ends its season and waits a month to play.
You're right about that, Jimbo. Look, speaking of bowl season, here are my top 5 bowls that are not in the college football playoff involving SEC teams. Michigan and Alabama in the Citrus Bowl. I am really anxious to see how Alabama plays in this game. You sit there and look at the other ones, the Sugar Bowl, Georgia and Baylor. A year ago in this game, Georgia played Texas, did not show up. Will Georgia show up in this? Is this the last game for Jake Fromm at quarterback, or is he coming back next year? Is this the last game for D'Angelo Swift? Will he be back at Georgia next year? Let's go to the Outback Bowl. Auburn, sitting there, has a chance to become only the 15th team in school history to win 10 games. The last time this Auburn defense is going to play together, I expect them to play very well against Minnesota. The Orange Bowl, Florida versus Virginia. Florida has a chance to win 11 games for the first time since 2012. This is going to be an interesting game for Florida. I think they take care of Virginia very easily in this game and start getting ready for next year. Tennessee and Indiana. Tennessee and Indiana in the Gator Bowl. Tennessee started 1-4, folks, and has a chance to finish it off with an 8-win season. That was pretty good. Let me mention 2 others. Music City Bowl, Mississippi State versus Louisville. Mississippi State will start Tommy Stevens at quarterback. The Paul Finebaum show was able to confirm that Garrett Schrader was indeed involved in an altercation and will not, after practice, will not play in this game. And finally, the Belk Bowl, Kentucky versus Virginia Tech. I'm going to watch this game because I want to see the last game for Lynn Bowden Jr. What he has done at Kentucky this year has been absolutely remarkable, and they've got a chance to finish with 8 wins. Not bad off of a 10-win season last year. We have got, folks, an incredible lineup of guests today. Here's the breakdown right here. Marcus Spears, my man, is going to be with me at 3:15. A lot to talk about with him. We mentioned Ross Dellinger, who talked about the transfer quarterbacks. This is the wave of the future. Laura Rutledge, always glad to see Laura, who will be with us at 4 o'clock. Coach Gene Chizik of the SEC Network. Looking forward to talking to Coach, sort of breaking it down from the coach's perspective. Dennis Adamovich, College Football Hall of Fame CEO here, is going to sort of run us through some of the new things the College Football Hall of Fame is doing on the 150th anniversary of college football. Marty Smith, I always enjoy talking to this guy. He's got a lot going on. He has an interesting perspective on this. Greg McElroy, always good to visit with Greg. 5:30 Eastern Time from the SEC Network. Alyssa Lang, who's at the Texas Bowl with Texas A&M, will join us at 5:45. And Glenn Gilbo, who knows as much about LSU football as anybody I know, will join us at 6 o'clock. So this is a full show, folks. We're here at 7 o'clock Eastern Time to take your calls at 855-242-7285, 855-7285. Let's do a call right now. Ryan in Texarkana. Ryan, are you with us?
Yes, sir. How you doing today, Mr. Tony? You look well, and you do an excellent job filling in for Paul. He better not get too sick too often.
Well, bless your heart.
Yeah, and let me ask you something about that has to do with the transfer portal and the red shirt rule.
Yep.
And I was wondering if and only if, due to this transfer portal and guys leaving early for the pros, if they would ever think about changing the red shirt rule to 5 games, if and only if the 5th game was a bowl game. And
Ryan,
how do you think this year's matchup is compared to the other years? Just to get your thought on that.
All right, well, first of all, Ryan, I love your idea. I've always maintained that you should always be able to play all the freshmen in a bowl game no matter what. I mean, what I believe, I'd like to see have 5 years to play 5 and do away with the red shirts and all that. The coaches would want more scholarships if you did that. But I think yeah, if you're a freshman, Ryan, and you only played 4 games to date, you should be able to play in the bowl game. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The idea is to get these guys ready for next year, so I love your idea. As far as these matchups are concerned, I believe these are as good as we've had. Now, we got to play the games. I think Ohio State and Clemson is going to be an incredible game. A lot of talent on that field. I'm giving the edge to Clemson right now. I got friends telling me, Barnhart, you are totally wrong, because Ohio State is one of the most talented teams we've seen. We'll see about Justin Fields, the quarterback of Ohio State. Is he ready to full go? And you can't discount the fact that Clemson and Dabo Swinney are playing the no respect card. That's a big part of it. As far as LSU, Oklahoma goes, I think it's going to be a great game. I'm giving LSU the edge simply because I think Oklahoma has lost too much with their best pass rusher, their second leading tackler at safety. I think that's too much for Oklahoma to overcome, even if Jalen Hurts does have a good game. So.
Yes, sir, and I'm thinking, too, as with every ball game, turnovers and players' responsibility, playing their responsibility offensively or defensively can turn a game, upside down in a hurry. As I've been watching UNC and Temple, I believe, in the Military Bowl or whatever. But yes, whatever team plays clean, fewest mistakes, fewest penalties, I think has the upper hand to win the game.
All right, Ryan, listen, I appreciate you calling. I got to run to a break. Folks, we'll be back in a bit, and our man Marcus Spears is going to be with us.
Name any card you like. I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of people say the ace of spades. The reason being it's a very popular card.
Okay.
But up to you. I don't want to influence your choice.
Say it out loud.
Say it out loud. Up to you. Any card except the Joker.
6 of hearts.
Okay, now, did you feel like I influenced your choice?
Nope.
But it felt like a completely free choice.
Yep.
Did you want to change your mind?
Nope.
Okay, there's only 51 cards inside the deck, inside this deck here. The 52nd card is inside the box.
It better not be.
You said the
That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous.
What? Okay, so first time he said the 6 of hearts, could have said anything. Okay, so I will drop the cards. Your choice. Say stop for me this time, and obviously I'll be able to look at it in the camera, so I'm gonna look off in the distance here.
Stop.
Okay, remember the card?
Yep.
I will kind of pan over the group.
Yep. You can show the camera if you want. Okay.
We got it. Okay, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
now even though I did not see the card, I know something about the card. Obviously, I know it is not the 6 of hearts.
Right.
It's not the 6 of hearts.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. Okay. If you hold yours for a second, the second card, was it red or black?
Black.
Club or spade?
Spade.
Medium, in between what?
Medium.
No, because I have a spade inside my pocket, a black spade. What is it?
6 of spades.
6 of spades, which
Yes.
is interesting, but this is a 6. But this is the 6 of hearts, the one you're holding.
Get out of here, man! What is that? This not, man.
That's the 6 of spades.
So again, I will flip through, put your finger inside, stop them as they fly by.
Pop.
Okay. Again, I will look down, remove the one. I will take it out, look at it. I'm looking on the ground here.
Yeah, he's not looking.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Throw it back inside the deck, and hold the deck. Okay. Now look at me. Do not move your lips. Think about the card and scream the card inside your head. 9 of hearts. Was that it?
No, you gotta come back. This is too good.
Think of any card inside your head. Do not look at them. Don't touch them. Just think of any card except the Joker.
Okay.
As he's deciding on a card, tell me when and where to cut. Entirely your choice.
Cut.
Okay, I will cut the cards exactly at that spot right there. We will set the cards down now. Keep in mind, you told me when and where to cut, and you're thinking of a card.
I am.
Which is interesting because you went back and forth between 2 cards, but you went back to the first card. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. In a loud voice, tell us the card that you're thinking about.
10 of diamonds.
The 10 of diamonds. Give me a small number.
2.
2. Then if I pick up the deck, the second card would be the card he's thinking about, the 10 of diamonds. Okay. Pick up the deck here, turn them over. So this is 1, and this is 2.
Come on.
And we are back in Atlanta, Georgia, here at the College Football Hall of Fame. We're not about 24 hours from now. We're going to have the college football playoff between Oklahoma and LSU. That's a nice addition to our downtown area of Atlanta. And we are here. We are joined by the aforementioned Marcus Spears. Spears, what was that guy doing, man?
Listen.
I've never seen you lose it like that.
I'm from Louisiana. That's voodoo, bro. That's not card tricks. That's voodoo. Straight up. And I was looking at that big Ferris wheel. You think it's a weight limit on that thing? Because I want to go ride it.
No, you got to go ride it, dude.
Okay, all
No,
right.
you got to go ride it.
Make sure it's not a weight
absolutely.
limit on there.
But what killed me was looking at Tebow. I mean, you sitting there, got your head down like this, and Tebow's going like,
Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
what is that dude doing, man?
What is he doing? First of all, that dude had a great story. He was homeless. I mean, he was raised an orphan.
he's called Magic with a meaning.
Magic with a meaning. And
okay,
man,
yeah.
he is unreal. What happened was we saw the reaction to the players when he was doing the card tricks for them out here. And our producer, Pete Waters, was like, we need to get him on.
That's awesome.
And he freaked me out, bro. Tom, TB, I know I pulled the 6 of heart out of that deck, dude. I'm still trying to figure out how you got
spooky.
it.
That is
Yeah,
spooky.
yeah.
So let's talk about this game a little. First of all, your people are back here.
Yeah.
Your people are back here.
Yeah, man. Yeah. See what you did?
I love it. I love it. All right, big picture question first. Big picture question. You know LSU. What they have done to this point in the season has been miraculous in terms of the way they've transformed themselves. As somebody who's close to that place, what's your big picture assessment of what they've done this year?
Welcome to the what century are we in? The 21st?
21st, I hope.
Welcome to the 21st century of playing offense. Number one, right? When you think about even conversations you and I had. Tony, why won't they spread the offense out? Why won't they throw the ball 30 or 40 times?
Yep.
Why won't they implement the things that we see having success in college football?
Coaches are hard-headed.
Coaches hard-headed, man.
Yes.
So finally, just overall, it's two things we always said. LSU had the athletes to compete with anybody.
Always.
And all they needed to fix was the offense. And they did those two things. Now, obviously, some things fall in line. Like, this is one of those seasons I think we'll look back 10, 15 years from now and we'd be like, how in the world does all of that come together at one time, right? Joe obviously transferring from Ohio State. Ed O getting the job through an interim phase at first. You think about the coaches they wanted, Herman, Jimbo, all of the things that it took to get to this point, I think fuels this team. It's a lot of underdogs on this team. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was told he was not big enough to play football. The receivers starving to be on center stage because they knew they had that type of talent. A lot of things came together for LSU this year, man.
Well, Coach O said something interesting in one of the press conferences, or maybe when he talked to Holly, is that Joe Burrow has changed the culture of LSU offense forever.
For sure. TB, think about this, man. And I would add two more names, Steve Ensminger and Joe Brady.
No doubt.
Think about this. If I'm 17 years old and I'm in this culture of high school football right now where teams are spreading the ball out and you want to be at the Elite 11 or you want to be amongst the names on the ESPN 300 who Lugs does a great job of breaking those guys down, you want to go somewhere where you're going to throw the football.
Sure.
Like that's when I was a tight end coming out of high school, I wanted to go to an offense that utilized the tight end. Like what you see is a progression by LSU overall. And Joe Burrow's, the meaning that Joe has had to this program is that you didn't get the nod at Ohio State. You came here, we put you in a great system. You performed at an elite level. I mean, he won the Heisman. Think about that for a second.
Him and Billy Cannon. I mean, that's it.
I mean, it's two. Think about the great players that's been through LSU. And Joe Burrow, within 16 months, became the second Heisman Trophy winner in the history of LSU football because of a scheme change and because of him being in the right place at the right time.
And don't you know that Odell Beckham Jr. and all those great LSU receivers over the years are sitting there watching, dude.
Why not us?
Dude, why not us?
Him, Jarvis Landry, Michael Clayton, Devery Henderson, Josh Reed won the Biletnikoff with Rohan David throwing the ball to him. But to that point, TB, it's never been a question about the players.
Never. No. Well, and the thing about it is, when we talk about changing the culture, whoever becomes the head football coach after Ed Orgeron is done, he can never go back.
He can't go back.
You can never go back.
Can't go back. Nope. And the way Ed embraced it, right? I was a big proponent for Ed early. A lot of people weren't.
No.
But I saw the way the players responded to him when they played hard for him. The last 7 games of the season, after Les Miles got fired, Ed Orgeron got a team to go into A&M and win a game. They competed hard against Alabama, still lost. They won, 6 of the 7, I think, and ended up having a really good season, and then went and played Lamar Jackson in a bowl game and shut him down. So you saw the rumblings, but I thought he would be the guy. And then you have the phase of you got to be smart to hire the right people.
Right.
He hired Matt Canada, didn't work.
Nope.
He said, that's not going to work. Thank you for your service. I'm going to move on. Went out and found the right guys. Like that, to me, that's coaching. They delegate power. That's what the great ones do. As much credit as we give Nick Saban and Dabo and Urban and what those guys have been doing, they've done a tremendous job delegating power and identifying talent within coaches. And Ed O is on on that path right now, man.
And he walks into Steve Ensminger's office and says, here's what I want to do. Are you cool with it? And Ensminger said, let's go. And you know coaches with their egos, you're bringing in a 29-year-old guy to tell me how to run up. No, no.
But that tells you about winning is everything for this team. Like, I've been around them, TB. If it's going to help us be good, we in.
Right.
And look, for all the conversation, Joe Brady won the Brawls Award. And Steve Ensminger did nothing but congratulate him and talked about wanting to usher him in to learning and having longevity in this career. If it's an unsung hero on this team, it's Steve Ensminger.
No, I don't think there's any question about it. Hey, look, you had a chance to talk to Alex Grinch, the defensive coordinator.
Who I love,
by the way. I heard nothing but great things about the guy.
I love him. I love him.
What were your takeaways? Because now we're sitting there looking at an Oklahoma defense that's lost their best pass rusher, that's lost their number 2 tackler in the secondary. What was your takeaway from talking to him?
Well, here's what. First of all, Alex has great perspective, and he got an edge to him, which I'm a defensive guy. I like that. Yeah. He's been doing a tremendous job this year of giving the illusion of pressure, with it looking like a 5- and 6-man rush, like we got an extra guy that you can't block, and it ends up being a 4-man rush. Bringing safeties down close to the line of scrimmage, and you don't know if they coming or they going. But he's had to play defense that way. If you look at Oklahoma's numbers of total defense against the rush, against the pass, everything is markedly better, like 70 spots better. So that tells you what type of job he's done. And we've sat here for years and said Oklahoma has been a defense away from possibly winning 1 or 2 national championships. So they're better.
They're better.
They're better. They're a lot better than they've been. Now, the question is, now you test your mettle against the best on the other side of the ball, right? But he has a plan. And look, this is the one identifier for me, and talking to you, which I love talking to you about football because you have so much knowledge and know all of these guys. How much do you reach out to guys that have been successful? Right. To me, that determines, for me personally, that tells me if you really are going on your way to being one of those guys. And the list of guys that he talked to try to figure out things and nuance to try to get this, you're not going to stop LSU. No. But you want to create some opportunities to take the ball away from him. He's done a great job.
Indeed. I could talk to you all day, my friend.
You know what it is,
it's good to see you, brother. All right. Thanks for being with us. Marcus Spears, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
He's our guy right here. All right, welcome back to Atlanta, Georgia. We're here at the College Football Hall of Fame. Those are the springs. A lot of people like to play in those. I don't know if you do it this time of year or not. Oh, my. That is one of our legacies from the 1996 Olympics. It's at Centennial Park. Showed you this earlier in the year by Ross Dellinger of Sports Illustrated. The fact that 3 of the 4 quarterbacks that are playing in the college football playoffs started their careers somewhere else. And that's a subject we're going to talk about as we bring on Ross Dellinger from Sports Illustrated. How are you, my man?
Good.
Everything good?
Yeah, everything's great. Good to be here in Atlanta, the heart of college football.
Absolutely. It's good to have you here. So let's start with that broad topic first. You write, hey, folks, we got 3 transfer quarterbacks in the college football playoff. You better get used to it because that's why we're headed. Why do you feel that way?
Yeah, you talk to people in the industry, and it's become a position that's so important in college football with the spread and passing that coaches are going out and they're looking every year for a new quarterback that can come in and plug and play. And I don't think that's slowing down anytime soon. I talked to LSU's offensive coordinator, Steve Ensminger, about it earlier here in Atlanta, and he kind of expressed, look, man, this ain't slowing down. This is going to be the new normal in college football. And I think it's just the way the game is going offensively. That position is so important. We see with LSU, right? I mean, without Joe Burrow, where is LSU at? Probably not right here. So, and they went in, and Ed Orgeron identified that was a weak spot for them, and they went and got a plug-and-play guy.
Well, and I've talked to people about this, and the reality seems to be is once the backup quarterback finds out he's the backup quarterback, he's out of there. I'm going to find some place. I know I'm good enough to play. I'm going to find some place to play.
Yeah, and that's a part of it too, right? I mean, there's a whole other issue of this is not just the coach looking for a player, but the player looking for playing time. And you know, we see that in the grad transfer thing has obviously changed stuff. You know, Joe Burrow's a grad transfer. Jalen Hurts, a grad transfer. You know, Justin Fields got the waiver approved. So you're seeing these guys be able to play immediately, and that changes the entire thing, you know, and they want to play, you know.
And I was going to ask you about the transfer portal. It seemed early on, you mentioned Justin Fields, you mentioned Tate Martell, they got waivers. It was almost like the NCAA was handing out waivers to everybody at the beginning, and since then they've sort of dialed back on that. Does that slow this down, even if you're not getting the waivers?
Maybe a little bit, but I think what we're going to see in college football, and I think it's coming, and you know this, Tony, you know, over the offseason they make all the different policies and changes and bylaw changes. And I think this offseason we might see a change where you're allowed, you know, 1 year to transfer and not have to sit out.
Okay.
So you're allowed that 1 year. I think we're coming to that, which is going to give obviously a lot more opportunity to kids. But I think that might be coming. If not this offseason, it feels like it's soon.
So bottom line, you get one free move.
One free move.
You make that one free move. If you want to move after that, you got to sit out.
Got to sit out a year. Yep. And I think that'd be good. I think a lot of coaches agree that's the way we're headed, and that should be the way we're headed. Certainly, players want that, you know, and we're seeing a lot of bylaw changes and changes in college football last few years. I mean, now you had the NIL stuff where it's all for players' rights, and this would be another thing that would be for players' rights, and it feels like it's coming.
Now, Ross, you spent a lot of time in Baton Rouge. Can you put in perspective kind of what they've done, how they have flipped the script on LSU in simply one calendar year?
It's hard. It's hard to explain because you look at what they did last year, you know, in Joe Burrow, and I mean, decent numbers, very kind of a ho-hum year.
He was okay.
You're right. I mean, I don't think, you know, it was 201 odds preseason to win the Heisman for a reason, because last year's first year as a starter was just okay. And it's hard to believe that, and I think it was, you know, a combination of things. Obviously, Joe is good and has been good for a while. And I think he needed to get into a system that spread the ball around. So Joe Brady came in from the Saints, and they've done that. But there's one factor that's being overlooked, I think, that's not written about enough. And it's the time that Joe and the LSU receivers spent in the offseason. And you kind of hear this, Tony, a lot with teams. Oh, we worked hard in the offseason, you know, player-led stuff. But you talk deep with LSU people, these guys were jumping fences, literally jumping fences of high school ballparks to practice there over the summer. And so him and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, they were doing, Terrace Marshall, they were doing that stuff. And I think it's paid off. I think that's what you're seeing as a connection that you didn't see last year because Joe showed up in June, you know.
And so weren't they going to catch like 10,000 balls or some ridiculous number
it's 10,000.
like that?
I think each one of them wanted to catch 10,000 balls, and I think they did.
That is unbelievable. You know, we those of us who followed LSU like you have heard it year after year after year. Oh, yes, this is the year we're going to change the offense, and this year we really mean it. Coach Orgeron told a really interesting story, and he's told it to a lot of people, including you, is that, you know, if you win 10 games, you're not really tempted to make any kind of radical change. But he said when they got beat 29-0 by Alabama, that's when he knew.
Yeah. And then you look at what happened after that, where you saw them opening up a little more in some games, and you saw Joe put up some pretty good numbers. I think his last 4 games last year was also kind of a factor in Ed saying, it's time for a change, you know, a radical change. And it was a risky thing. You know, that's the thing about Ed Orgeron, man. He's made some decisions that were pretty risky that have paid off. One, going out and getting a guy who is a backup at Ohio State, you know, in Joe Burrow. Another, bringing in Cole Tracy. Remember, he brought in Cole Tracy a couple years ago, the kicker,
absolutely,
who won him a couple of games, including the big one at Auburn. And then, of course, he hires a 29-year-old who's never been, let alone a coordinator, never really been a full-time assistant on the FBS level, in Joe Brady to come in and just overhauled everything. You know, Joe Burrow told me first day of kind of the spring, mid-January, you know, they start passing out playbooks, and Joe Burrow's looking at it going, what is this? And Steve Ensminger said, welcome to the spread, basically. And it's really been something. But it's something the coaches certainly saw after Alabama late last year with Joe. We got a quarterback in receivers to do it. Let's do it.
What was that meeting like when Ed Orgeron walks into the office of Steve Ensminger? He said, "Let me tell you what I'm thinking."
And I think they were, Steve and Ed, as you know, they go back a long way, two Louisiana boys.
Oh yeah.
I want to actually say Steve at some point was in Ed's wedding, maybe. I mean, they were pretty close. They worked together, maybe at Northwestern State for a little while, maybe, or crossed over in some way. So they go way back, and they get along really well. They mesh really, really well. And I think they were in agreement on this, that it needed to happen and that they had the tools to make it happen. And Ed's told the story where I think late last year, maybe even after the last or before the last regular season game against A&M, Ed went to Steve and said, we need to make a change. And Steve said, let's do it, you know?
Yep, well, that's what you have to do.
Yep.
You have to be, sometimes you have to be bold.
Yep, you got to be bold. They
Really
certainly
do.
were.
Ross, always good to be with you, my friend. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're here to take your calls at 855-242-7285. This is.
I don't think you're sitting here at the college football playoff if your team hasn't gotten quite a bit better. I think we have. I think we've had different challenges throughout the year, and we've been able to face most of them and come out on the good end. So probably more for me right now would be the preparation we've had in the last several weeks. Our goal has been to play our very best game, and we put forth a schedule that had that and only that in mind. And our players, coaches, everybody have executed that extremely well. So that's been our goal from day one. When we found out that we were going to be in the playoff and playing a really good LSU team, was let's play our very best. And I think we've done the work to get that done.
Obviously, he was a young player when we played him. They're doing more things with him. He's the leader of this football team. He looks like to me he's the heart and soul of this football team. I have to commend him to going into a new situation and obviously have won it over by, I'm assuming, the way he works. Knowing him and his character and what he's done and working with Coach Riley, I think that those guys have a tremendous system, a tremendous program. He's very smart. He's very difficult to stop, but I'm going to tell you what, this scheme makes it tough. And those guys they block more people in the box than you have, and then they have C.D. Lamb sitting out there. It's a very difficult scheme. They know how to call the right plays, but he runs the ball like a big tailback back there and also throws the ball well, and also has come back from a deficit to lead his team to victory. I do believe he's a great leader. I think we were a little surprised by the Ole Miss quarterback. We knew he could run. They had a scheme that really got to us a little bit. We weren't as prepared for that scheme as we thought we'd be, and he was faster and they were better. I don't think this is going to be the case. That doesn't mean we're going to stop him. We know this guy's a great player. We know they have a great scheme. We know they can make plays. Now, we're just not going to shut down this offense, you know what I mean? But we need to be in the right place at the right time. We need to play our blocks. We need to tackle in space, and we need to keep coming after it. This is going to be a war. This is going to be one of the hardest offenses we've tried to stop since I've been here at LSU. And Jalen's one of the best players. We know that. He's beat us twice already. So he has the ultimate respect from the head coach here and everybody on our staff.
All right, welcome back to Atlanta, Georgia. There's a Mercedes-Benz Stadium. 4 o'clock tomorrow, number 1 LSU versus number 4 Oklahoma. College football playoff semifinals at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Greetings, everybody. This is Tony Barnhart sitting in for Paul Finebaum until 7 o'clock. We're here to take your calls at 855-242-7285. We have some callers on the line right now. Let's take them right now. Let's go to Herb in Arlington, Texas. Hello, Herb. It's Tony Barnhart.
Hey, Tony, how are you today?
I am doing very well. Thank you.
Good. This is my first time calling to the show. And I'm actually a long-life resident of the Baton Rouge area, but had to move over here about 10 years ago because my wife's daughter got transferred for her job. However, I am a staunch LSU supporter. And I thought I'd bring a little history into this, and I think I'm correct. In 2004, LSU played in the Sugar Bowl, played against Oklahoma for the BCS National Championship.
Correct.
Their quarterback, Jason White, had just won the Heisman Trophy.
That is correct.
And their running back, Adrian Peterson, either did not play or was limited in playing. So this is kind of deja vu in reverse.
It is sort of a deja vu in reverse. I was at that game. I remember it well, and it was a LSU's national championship under Nick Saban, and it was a fun game to watch. You're right. It's like deja vu in reverse.
Right. That's all I was talking about. Because when I heard these things, I said, "My goodness, that's just like the 2004 championship game, except in reverse."
Absolutely. Well, Herbs, who's going to win the game? And I assume you think LSU is going to win the game. Why are they going to win the game?
Well, I'm hoping they're going to win the game. I have a fear of their quarterback, of Oklahoma's quarterback, running the ball crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So that's my only fear. Other than that, I think LSU would dominate.
Well, it's going to be interesting.
Because of their passing attack and their other three running backs are not bad ball players either.
No, they're very highly recruited guys. Price and John Emery was the #1 high school running back in the country last year. So I think they'll be fine. The only thing that we're picking up today here, Herb, is that there's concern that Clyde Elaire was so good. He's so good at picking up the blitzes and giving Joe Burrow a little bit extra time. That I know that's what they're concerned about. But we'll see. Okay, let's go to James in Louisiana. Hello, James.
Hey, Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
I was going to ask you a question. About 4 games ago, there was a player, Michael Divinity, left LSU's team, and I understood here about 2 weeks ago he was wanting to get reinstated. Do you know anything about that?
I don't. I do remember when Michael Divinity left the team. I do remember that. And they were sort of non-committal about what his future is going to be. But we have not gotten any updates since we've been in Atlanta about what his status is.
Okay, then. Thank you, Tony.
Okay, thanks for calling. Let's go to Joe in Red Bay. Joe, you called back.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling.
Well, good. I'm enjoying the show today, Tony. Everything's looking pretty good, and I'd like to give my input. I've thought about this. And the first thing I want to say about I-Man yesterday, I heard his call and, what he was saying, but at first I would have to value his opinion before he could ever cut me down because his opinion does not mean jack squat to me. And in case he don't remember, he said Bama don't have a dog in the race. Well, Auburn don't either. And at least we're playing a good team, and they're playing Gophers. So... enough with that. But I think Oklahoma is going to win this game tomorrow. And the reason I say this is the reason that other caller just said, Jalen Hurts. Because Jalen Hurts has been in this big game before. And Oklahoma's whole team has been in this game before. They was in there last year. And LSU, I don't know if Joe Burrow is going to handle this or not, but I got faith in the Bama Boomer Sooner, Jalen Hurts. And I think he's going to have a record-setting day because basically, LSU, they're not going to handle it. They're stickless corn dog brains, and that's going to show up in this game tomorrow. It's going to be close, but I'm pulling with Jalen Hurts to pull this out the end because LSU is overlooking Oklahoma. And like I said, Oklahoma's been in this game before. They was, they've been there. They was there just last year. And I don't think that LSU is going to handle the big moment. But that's my thought. But anyway, I'm enjoying the show, Tony. Y'all have a good one and roll tide.
All right, Joe, I appreciate that. It's interesting to think about what would it be like. Jalen Hurts, we talked about this on the show yesterday. Jalen Hurts, when he takes a snap in this game tomorrow, this will be the 4th consecutive year that he has played in the college football playoff. He played, he didn't play as much with Alabama as he did in some years. Obviously, in 2016, he was the starting quarterback. 2017, he was benched when they played against Georgia. 2018, he only got in a little bit at the end of the semifinals against Oklahoma. But if somehow Oklahoma were to be able to win this game and advance to the national championship game, then Jalen Hurts will have played in 4 consecutive national championship games. I don't know that anybody has ever done that. Maybe some freshman at Clemson has done it. Maybe that's so, but I think that is absolutely incredible. Brams, we have any calls left before we go to break? All right, let's go to Steve in Alabama. Steve?
Hey, Tony, how you doing?
I'm
how
doing
you doing,
great.
Tony?
I'm doing great.
I got with LSU and Oklahoma game. I think the biggest part about it. Well, maybe you can answer this. What officiating crew's going to call this game? Do you know?
You talking about the game here at Saturday? You about Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Oklahoma LSU.
Yes.
You know what? I don't know. Other than I know it won't be Big 12 officials and it won't be SEC officials. That I can tell you. They always get a neutral. They get a neutral crew to do that.
Oh, okay. Well, Oklahoma may have a chance in me.
Well, all right. I appreciate that. Listen, thanks for calling. We have got to run. Listen, folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're here to take your calls at 855-242-7285.
With a wide receiving duo in the nation, I wonder if you guys can say definitively yes or no. Best receiving duo in the nation? What do we think?
We're going to say yes, not to be cocky, but to be confident in ourselves.
Okay. How about you?
I'll say the same. Just being able to, go on the field and put up the numbers that we have. I mean, a lot of duos don't have the numbers that we have. So just being able to say that we're the best duo in the country is a success for us.
Okay, so I know a lot of people are excited about Joe Burrow and his numbers and his accuracy numbers, and they should be. But you guys make some great catches for him. How are you there for your quarterback? You are really there for him.
We always got to be there for Joe. Just putting the ball wherever he needs to put it, and we're going up and catch it. So that's just shouting out Coach Joe Brady just for working on our hands and being able to go up and catch balls like that.
Okay, speaking of the hands, I just saw some kind of shake. What was the super secret shake? Show it to me.
You want to see?
I want to see it. What is this?
That's our sauce right here.
Oh, it is a little, is it Cajun sauce?
I was on game. I ain't mess up.
I like the secret sauce. Okay, you guys are also known for your touchdown dances, celebrations. Now, you're not going to do that and get a penalty, right?
We gonna see. we gonna see when we get to the game. But we definitely got something if they let us showboat a little bit.
Can you show me just like a baby preview? Like, give me a little. I'm a good dancer. I feel like I could be in on it a little bit.
You want to hop in this with us?
Get it. Go. Let's go. Go. What is it? Yeah.
I'm serious.
I'm serious.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Just go like this.
Yep.
Then start to jump.
I feel like we could do more flavor up on the top, though. That's it? That's all?
You guys like you jumping rope. Just came up with that one.
Oh.
Or you can do the twist. You can do the twist one.
Okay.
Yeah, we got like 3 of them. Yeah, we have a lot.
You had another little robot-looking one, or like Fortnite-looking one. Nothing?
Which one?
You did it at Ole Miss, and you didn't get in trouble for it.
This one?
Yes.
Hey, Bob. Fact.
Bob.
Hey.
See, I knew you guys were showing me the boring ones. I knew there was more flavor. All right. Bob and Weave. All right. This is the best wide receiving duo in the country. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Thanks for showing me some stuff.
Thank you.
The weekend's full of surprises, from big upsets to rivalry. On the Finebaum show, Paul's on a roll. If he don't get the best of me, we'll call Paul. He'll make sense of it all. Yeah, we'll call Paul.
And welcome back to Atlanta, Georgia. You're looking inside the Mercedes-Benz Stadium where 4 o'clock tomorrow, LSU and Oklahoma meet in the college football playoff semifinal at the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Barnhart sitting in for Paul Finebaum. We are joined by the wonderful Laura Rutledge. Your people are here, Laura.
I love my
Your
people.
people are here.
I'm honored to claim them as my people. It's so good to see you guys, and it's wonderful to see you.
I thought Spears was popular. Oh,
well,
man.
He's a big deal.
All right,
he was sweating out here, actually. He went back in the green. I just saw him in the green room, and he was like, man, it's hot out there. I figured it was your fault.
This is warm for us this time of year. All right,
exactly.
before we talk about football, we got to talk about something important. First Christmas for baby Reese Catherine. What was it like?
It was a lot of fun, and thank you for asking about her. You know, she's getting to the point at almost 3 months old where she's really kind of noticing more things, and she's a little more alert, so it's just a really fun time. But we did have an adventure getting here, but we started in New York in the morning of Christmas because I worked there that morning, and then we got on the plane and we felt good about everything. We had, you know, the great Christmas onesie on. She looked adorable, that my mother-in-law Cheryl had gotten her. And then we were going along, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I think she just had a really big diaper blowout, but that's okay, no big deal. You try to stay calm, deep breaths, and sure enough, it was so big that it was all over her, all over me. The Christmas outfit was done, and so I took her into the very small airplane lavatory, something that a lot of parents have done, got the diaper figured out, got everything into the trash bag. I think I handed the flight attendant like a 10-pound bag of just waste and said, here you go. And that was about the time that I realized I didn't have a backup outfit for her. So now here I am on Christmas Day with a naked baby somewhere in the air between New York and Atlanta. And the moral of the story is the people across the way from us on the plane actually turned to us, realized what was going on, and very just nonchalantly handed us a backup onesie. They had a little baby with them as well. And it was the Christmas spirit in full force. I don't know what we would have done had we not had that backup onesie. So I was so appreciative to them for their kindness in that crazy moment.
Welcome to parenthood.
Exactly, right?
Welcome to parenthood.
Goodness.
All right, let's start here. You've been with Oklahoma and LSU all week. Give us the big picture of Oklahoma, because everybody's saying you can't come here and win.
Yeah.
What do they think?
Well, look, I mean, they've kind of relished in the fact of being the forgotten team here in this college football playoff, and they'll tell you that they're not using that as motivation, but Tony, I think a lot of it actually is motivation for them in some ways. Either way, this is a business trip for them, and they've had experience in the playoffs, certainly, over the past few years, and so Lincoln Riley, we were just talking to him, just saying how much that helps to at least know what this schedule is going to be like, to know kind of how to prepare and how to allocate your time. I think that's a big theme for them. And then the other thing that's really struck me is just how well Jalen Hurts has done to win over that team. And, you know, fans in the SEC are familiar with him and what he's done as a leader, you know, even at his time at Alabama, how he handled himself, how he handled a situation that might have been tough for some other young men. He's gone into this Oklahoma team. It really is remarkable. He gets there, he wins over the locker room, he learns an offense that is complicated. And look, Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield had way more time in those Lincoln Riley offenses than Jalen did. And Lincoln Riley, to his credit, has then adjusted his offense to fit Jalen's skill set, which has been a lot of fun to see.
Well, I think we all wondered, Laura. I said, look, Lincoln Riley can't ask Jalen Hurts to do what those other guys did, but he can adapt to what is a wonderful skill set. He just has to adapt to it, and Lincoln Riley has clearly done that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think Coach Riley would like to have Jalen for a couple more years just to continue to develop that passing ability. He's improved so much already, and anybody will say that. Even when we were talking to Grant Delpit earlier, who obviously faced Jalen when he was at Alabama, when Grant, of course, was at LSU, and just saying how much he's seen him improve by watching film and seeing those massive improvements, comfortability in the pocket, just the ability to process the field a little bit more, patience in the pocket, all these things that we're seeing from Jalen now that have been a result from going and working with Lincoln Riley, who is so great with quarterbacks.
In real world terms, they lose their best pass rusher, they suspend him.
Yeah.
Their second leading tackler at safety, he's out with a collarbone. Just from a pragmatic standpoint, how much does that impact Oklahoma?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it's not ideal for them, and they are fully admitting that. But talking to defensive coordinator Alex Grinch, the one thing about the DN position that Ronnie Perkins, who is suspended and won't play, that he plays, is that's probably the position that they could afford to lose someone the most. Even though Perkins is very successful, very productive, they rotate so many guys in and out of that particular spot that they feel confident there. And then Delaren Turner-Yell, their safety, who will not play in this game due to the injury that he suffered, that's a bigger loss for them. Basically, it just means they're thinner at that position. You know, they can't afford to have any other injuries in their secondary. That'll be something to watch big time, I think, in this game.
Let's flip the page and talk about LSU for a minute. You saw this team, you covered this team a year ago when Joe Burrow got there and they were still trying to figure it out.
Right.
And look at them now. And the question is, have you seen a transformation that was more 180 than this football team from a year ago to this football team right now?
I mean, I can't think of one in recent memory. It's been remarkable to see what they've been able to do. And it was interesting because when we were just talking to Coach O, you know, he says that he doesn't care about the Coach of the Year award. And I believe him. I don't think he really does. Obviously, much rather win a national championship, get an opportunity to do that. But he said, no one's talking about me. My name isn't even in that mix. If I don't have Joe Brady come in, if I don't have Joe Burrow still here. So I think what you're seeing is just the perfect confluence of events for LSU. Yes, it was a turnaround that so many people could be given credit for, but you get Joe Brady in, you still have Joe Burrow there. You also have Steve Ensminger, who's willing to listen and learn from Joe Brady, and also in turn tutor Joe Brady with some things that he already knows. On the offensive side, it's incredible. Maybe not enough attention even given to Dave Aranda and the defensive side.
Right.
You've got to keep that guy in Baton Rouge because he's somebody who could have had opportunities as a head coach. Just the way that things have played out for LSU has been really impressive. And even watching them practice yesterday, I was just, it's remarkable. It takes so much to win a championship or have a chance at winning a championship. This is a team that when you watch them even practice, they've got that about them. And it's fun to see how it's all come around and really this 180-degree turn that, like I said, I think we'll be talking about it for years.
Well, somebody asked me, I said, explain to me Joe Burrow. I said, Joe Burrow is the coolest cat in school.
He's so cool.
Joe Burrow is the guy who was the star of the football team. Apparently, he was a great basketball player from what we were seeing the other day.
That was nuts.
But I had a chance to sit down with him at SEC Media Days, and I said, Joe, you guys have told us, LSU's been telling us for 10 years they're going to change the offense.
Right.
You never do. He said, no, not only is it going to work, we're going to average 40 points a game. Well, guess what? They're averaging 48.
Right.
I mean, I was skeptical, but I'm not skeptical anymore.
You know, you bring up such a great point about him just being a cool customer all the time. I think what that does, and you know this, I mean, I would even liken this to being like a host on TV. It's obviously a different deal. But if you're calm in your role as quarterback on a set or quarterback on a field, everybody around you is calm. And that's kind of what Joe Burrow has done for this offense and done for the entire team. It affects the defense, too. They see that he's never rattled. Doesn't matter what happens. Doesn't matter if things aren't going their way. And look, things have gone their way most of the time. But he remains calm no matter what. And I think that's infiltrated the minds and the hearts of the rest of the team.
You know, somebody brought up a point. One of the top storylines has been the health of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And somebody said they weren't as concerned about the running part of it as they were about Clyde Edwards, his ability to pick up the blitzes and give Joe Burrow that extra beat, that extra time to do it. That does seem to be a factor.
I think it is. And it's just interesting because there are still some, you know, scenarios where LSU's kind of acting like maybe he'll try to play. He has not practiced at all this week, so we'll find out if he practices today. I think that'll be interesting. But either way, I mean, I think you even look at it. If he's out there, he's not going to be 100% or probably anywhere close. So it's just an intriguing scenario to watch the entire game. I think it's not only that he can pick up blitzes, although I will say that Joe Burrow has been so good at that on his own. I'm not as concerned about that for him. I think it's more what Clyde Edwards-Helaire brings in the pass game. I mean, he's their third leading receiver, and you look at their trio of wide receivers, and that even makes it more remarkable because they have so many great ones. What I would look for is, you know, can they put a Jamar Chase in that opportunity?
Right.
Can they kind of do some creative things where really when they're using kind of a committee for that running back position, they're making them just run the football, and then they use their receivers more the way that they've used Edwards-Helaire. The game plan changes. I mean, it really does, and it changes how Oklahoma would defend them. But another thing that's interesting about what LSU's offense has seen, no matter who's been on the field, is that ever since Florida, if you look back at kind of their games throughout the season, they've seen a defense on the opposing side that's played completely different scheme than they've played all year long.
Exactly.
Everybody changes their scheme for LSU, and so you would expect maybe, just based on that Oklahoma could do that no matter if Edwards-Helaire is in there or not.
It's going to be fascinating. Laura Rutledge, it is always fun to spend some time with you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's so much fun to spend some time with you.
All right.
And by the way, all these fans are here for you, so don't be lying about anybody else, okay? They're all here for you.
All right, Laura Rutledge, ladies and gentlemen, go hug the baby when you get a chance, okay? Very good. All right, we got to take. And welcome back to Atlanta, Georgia, where on Saturday, tomorrow at 4 o'clock, LSU versus Oklahoma in the college football playoff semifinals at the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Should be fun. Pleased to be joined by Coach Gene Chizik of the SEC Network. Coach, it's always fun to talk ball with you. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it, Tony,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Always ready to talk some ball, man. Let's go.
Well, somebody explained to me, and I've heard you talk about this before, is that the Oklahoma offense is fun to watch because it's math. It's not science, it's math. It's about matchup. Tell us a little bit about that, because watching Lincoln Riley play this game is fascinating.
Yeah, it's fun, Tony. I made the comment this morning that I could just sit down and watch the offense, watch their film for fun. Because I'm going to tell you, it's a puzzle, and you got to figure this puzzle out. What I like about it the most is that they have put so much into scheming and being able to turn it into a math game, as you mentioned, that there's just not a lot of people out there who have figured it out. And I don't care if you watch 12 or 13 games on these guys. It seems like Lincoln always has a game plan, either by formation or different ways to get to the quarterback run game that you don't have enough people. And if you look at Jalen Hurts and you look at what he's done rushing right now, quarterbacks don't just rush for 1,255 yards. That have to be great design plays. The offensive line has to do a great job of blocking and picking up things because people try to throw everything at it. It's a fascinating offense to watch.
Well, you know, when Jalen Hurts transferred to Oklahoma, I think a lot of us wondered, okay, Lincoln Riley, we've seen what he's done with other great quarterbacks. How does he work within Jalen Hurts' skill set to maximize what he can do? What has he done with Jalen's skill set?
I love what he's done, Tony, because, you know, people look at this offense because they look at what Kyler Murray did. They look at what Baker Mayfield, and they think you're going to throw it all over the lot. I will promise you this. This offense is about running the football. That's what it's about. Now, that doesn't mean they can't throw it, but it's about finding a way to run the football. That's not just with a quarterback. You got Kennedy Brooks, who's almost got 1,000 yards rushing on top of that. So they run the football. But off of that, they set up a lot of their action pass down the field. This is what Jalen's really good at. Jalen's good at, you know, moving the pocket off of play action. He's good extending plays with his feet, ad-libbing, and getting the ball out. He does a phenomenal job of looking at receivers, anticipating where they're going to be, particularly when he breaks the pocket, and putting the ball in spots where they can catch the ball and make yards after the catch. So, to me, it's been a tailor-made offense for him, both running and throwing.
All right, you're Dave Aranda at LSU. Let's go back to the Georgia-LSU game in the SEC Championship. I was told before that game, when you play LSU, they're obviously very, very talented. But this person said, but there will be an opportunity or two or three to take some shots down the field. Do you think that'll be the case? And does Jalen Hurts need to make those shots when he gets them?
Yeah, I think there'll definitely be the case. I mean, you can look at the first series of the game in the SEC Championship game. They had some opportunities to take some shots down the field. Actually, on the first play of the game, they had a guy wide open, Georgia did, that he could at least, you know, hit a big play, an explosive play early in the game. There will be those opportunities, okay? LSU's defense is much improved. There's no question. The last two outings that I've seen, since the Ole Miss debacle, where they had 400 yards put up on the ground, they've been a completely different defense. They play with an edge. They're in the right spots. They tackle well in the open field. But some of the coverages that you play leave you vulnerable to certain routes. And they're going to play quarters coverage. They're going to play some one-high coverage. And if you can catch them in those, you can design some routes that are going to get a guy in the open field with an opportunity to hit him with an explosive play. And Jalen will have that opportunity. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not he's going to be able to hit it.
And if you're Dave Aranda, and you're looking at C.D. Lamb out there, is that a guy that you've got to have some help over the top? Can you ever single cover him? I mean, is Stingley good enough to do that? But can you ever let C.D. Lamb out there by himself?
Well, here's the conversation that really is the one that's circulating out there, right? Are we going to match our best guy up against C.D. Lamb? Well, let's not forget, LSU, yes, you've got Derek Stingley out there. You also have a first-rounder on the other side in Christian Fulton.
Right.
So I don't think you're going to see a guy travel with him necessarily. Oh, I think there's no question you have to find ways to put a guy over the top so you can beat him up on the line of scrimmage. There will be scenarios that you have to play him one-on-one. That's just the way football is. If I bring an eighth guy down, I'm not going to have anybody over the top, and you're going to have to play some of that type of structure on defense to stop the quarterback run. So The bottom line is, yes, he will get some one-on-one opportunities out there. CeeDee Lamb is as good as there is in the business, Tony. He's 6'2". He's a 190-pound blur. You get the ball to him in open space early, he can turn a 5-yard catch into a 60-yard catch. The main thing is you got to tackle him, and you got to corral him before he can get going. Yes, you mix it in, put some guys over the top for some doubles, but you can't live in that all night. Stingley and Fulton are built for this moment. This is what they're there for, right? This is why they recruited to LSU, and they're going to have to go out there and they're going to have to earn their scholarship.
Coach, you've been a head coach in this league, won a national championship. You know this league as well as anybody. I've been trying to put in perspective what LSU has accomplished in the course of one calendar year, from changing the offense to bringing in Joe Burrow the year before, to Ed Orgeron walking in the office to talk to Steve Ensminger and say, let me tell you what I'm thinking. Can you put it in perspective what they've done in really a calendar year?
I think Ed O deserves so much credit for the way this whole program has been run since the day he took it over, okay? There's a lot of questions, Tony, coming from a lot of people. And he's done everything right. He's made the right hires. If he didn't make a right hire, he changed it and got it fixed.
Yep, did that.
He's brought in the right guys. He's recruited the right character. He's recruited and evaluated and developed some great players. And then he went out in the transfer portal and he got a Heisman Trophy winner. Let's not forget about this guy. Last year, no one's going to talk about the kicker that they went out and got. Cole Tracy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just throwing out other names that they've gone in. Fehoko, the defensive lineman they got from Texas Tech. There's guys that he brought in that they evaluated and said, these guys plug and play. They fit exactly what I want. Did he know that Joe Burrow was going to be the alpha dog? Did he know he was going to be the Heisman guy? No, he didn't. And if he says he did, that's a lie, right? But what he did know was this guy fit. He loved him. He was a coach's son. He was a tough guy. He was a football guy. That's the kind of guy I want in my program. And then he put the pieces around him with young players and the coaches around him. No one's going to give Steve Ensminger enough credit.
No,
this dude deserves he deserves a ton of credit. Joe Brady came in to supplement what they've done. And then it turned into be what you see today. So it all starts with the top. That's the bottom line.
And the thing is, Coach, is that most coaches, Ed Orgeron in LSU won 10 football games a year ago. Most coaches who win 10 football games, so you know what? We'll just tweak it here and there, but we're fine. We're good. And that's not what he did. He looked at that box score, that 29-0 box score when they played Alabama, and said, we got to do something fairly radical.
I love the fact that he's gone outside the box. He's done something. How many times, Tony, have we said, God, LSU's got great tailbacks. Man, they got great wideouts. Man, they got great DBs. Man, look at those linebackers and Devin White. But we haven't been able to say that about quarterback. Not that they've had bad ones. They haven't had great ones. And we have said this.
Yeah.
As soon as LSU gets the difference maker, alpha dog, real dude to run the locker room, some people are going to be in trouble. Well, not only did he get that, he went outside the box and said, you know what, we got to tweak this offense a little bit. And Steve Ensminger had enough belief in himself where he wasn't threatened. He didn't feel, because those things can go the other way on you too. And he said, let's bring in this young dude. Let's bring him in. Let's mesh all the worlds together and let's make this thing work. And they're one game away from the national championship.
That's great. I could sit down and talk to Coach Chiswick about ball all day, but they tell me we got to take a break, so we got to go. Coach, thanks for being with us. Happy New Year.
Always great to be here,
all
Tony.
Right. My hometown, where on Saturday we will have LSU in Oklahoma from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. CFP semifinals at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. All right, we have everybody back now, and I am pleased. We're here at the College Football Hall of Fame with all these folks here. It has been a fun day. I'm pleased to be joined by my friend Dennis Adamovich, the CEO of the College Football Hall of Fame.
Good to see you, Tony.
Dennis, how are you, my man?
Doing well. Busy week.
It has been a fun day at the College Football Hall of Fame. I was here yesterday, and the crowds were good, but I came in today, and the folks showed up today.
Yeah, they did. We had them lined up all the way down the street before we opened up, an hour before we opened up. They're passionate fans, and they love college football, and there's no better place than here.
And at the end of the day, everybody remembers the old College Football Hall of Fame, but I remember when it was built 2014, which is hard to believe, that that it's been there that long. Atlanta, Georgia is the place.
It is.
It is the place.
You know, it was said coming here at 2012. We opened 2014. We're only 5 years old,
Right.
so we're pretty new to the city. And there's always something fresh and new in this amazing space.
Well, you talk about fresh and new. That's one of the challenges. I understand you have 2 new exhibits that have just not too long ago have been put in. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so last week we opened up a new Kia Performance Challenge. And we're all about technology here and bringing fans to football and technology. And the Kia Challenge actually puts you as an avatar and does a combine challenge. So it's incredible how it brings you to the fans and actually makes it how high you jump, how fast you run.
Wow.
So that's a really, really amazing experience. And we just opened up the new Goodyear Blimp simulator. So you actually get in a Goodyear blimp. We inducted honorary inductee into the College Football Hall of Fame. You get in, and you actually can see an aerial view of your school.
Wow,
and,
look at that right there.
And it's incredible.
And so it feels like you're in the actual blimp.
It does. You hear it, you feel it, you see your school from an aerial view. You know when the blimp's there, it's a big game. So it's we're all about big games and big times.
That is awesome. I understand you've got some things specially planned for Black History Month, which will be coming up.
We do. Every year we really try to celebrate the stories. We're all, the College Football Hall of Fame is all about storytelling.
Yep.
We are storytelling. And in February we've put panels together, and we have a great one coming up on the 21st. It's past, present, and future around HBCU. It really kind of tells a story from top to bottom and have panelists that will help bring that story forward. And there's several more that are going to be announced throughout the month.
Well, that's one of the neat things about the College Football Hall of Fame. If you, at any level of college football, we look at this wall, this 3-story wall behind us, 700 plus.
750 helmets. The only place in America you're going to see that, Tony.
Well, and it is every college and university that plays football in the United States of America.
It's all schools, all divisions, and
that's one of the,
just trying to keep up with that alone.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Now, sitting in your chair with your staff, one of the things you understand you've got to do. This is a wonderful exhibit, but you've got to be. We're celebrating the 150th anniversary of college football, and it's been a wonderful celebration. It really has been. Kevin Weiberg and his group have done an incredible job with this. But one of the things sitting in your chair, you've got to be the guy, and your staff has to be the people that go, okay, what's next? So what is next?
Well, so we're storytellers, right? And we have over 1 million pieces of memorabilia that sit in our archives. And only 10% of it sits on this floor right now.
Right.
So we're always about telling stories and bringing new stories forward and bringing new things. And we're also looking at how do you take what you experience here, which is we've won awards for how interactive and immersive we are. How do we take that out beyond the 4 walls of the Hall of Fame here? So we're looking at new and innovative ways to take the stories outside of the 4 walls that are here.
Right. One of the things that so impresses people about this Hall of Fame, it is so interactive. The old Hall of Fame in South Bend, it was a museum. They did a great job, don't get me wrong, but this makes college football a more living, breathing thing. And when you go up to the second floor and you see this big touch screen, the children are just drawn to that.
Yeah. So this pass that everybody gets when they come in, it highly customizes the experience for you. So you and I, well, we may have the same experience, but most people don't have the same experience because that is customized for them and their school. And there's a chip in here, and as you walk up to everything, it actually brings you to the attraction like no other place in America.
So if you're a University of Georgia fan and you walk in here and you punch in the code over here by the kiosk, then as you walk up to each thing, they will feed
Georgia will be
content
first and
towards
foremost
you.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct.
That is fascinating.
And here's one of the cool things. Today we had the enshrinement ceremony for the incoming Hall of Fame class. And we had them all here. We celebrated with the fans. We went up to the Hall of Fame. Most Hall of Fames are a one-way experience where you're looking at a bust and you're looking at the year they were inducted. Here, you look at yourself, all your statistics, everything about the player, and watching them watch themselves, It's priceless.
Yeah, I have been at the very, very top where you walk in, and it is so interactive. If you wanted to something about Bo Jackson, you would pick Bo Jackson, and it feeds
everything
it to
on
you.
Bo comes up. That's right.
Automatically. That is just fascinating. What is, for people who have not been to the College Football Hall of Fame, what do you tell them about, because one of the things you and I discussed was that you want this experience to be one, not just one time.
That's right.
You want them to come back multiple times.
There's always going to be something new when you come back here. There's always going to be a new story. There's always going to be a panel. There's going to be, this is football. This is the football mecca. This is the epicenter of college football. We need to make sure that when people come in here, there's always going to be something new, not only for them, but for their team as well. And that is our ongoing creative challenge that we're up for.
Now, tell me, obviously, the College Football Hall of Fame is completely integrated with the playoff and the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl and all that. Tell us what the role you want the Hall of Fame to play with these various events that come to Atlanta, Georgia.
So we want to be the venue where if you're going to do college football, something in college football, if you're not in the College Football Hall of Fame in this amazing environment, you're probably missing out. You're probably going to have to decorate somewhere. You don't have to. It just surrounds you. The air in here is legendary. All the stories are legendary. So we play a pivotal role in all these big sporting events. Peach Bowl, Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, all the events are happening here as a result of that event coming to the city of Atlanta. It starts Celebration Bowl. We do the ESPN Award Show here. We do SEC Championship.
Exactly.
You go on and on and on. And that's what makes our city so great. And the hall plays a pivotal role in all those events. And fans.
Really out here in the field, it is a recreational place for children and people to play and all that. But you have so many events in this area. It is a neat place for people to have big events.
We do about 240 events a year.
Wow.
So we're open to fans 9 to 5 every day. And in the evenings, we turn into an amazing event space. Tonight we have 3 events going on for Peach Bowl. And that is, I've got an incredible staff. So for us to do what we do in this city, I'm very proud of my staff. But, you go on the field, you're kicking field goals, you're throwing long passes, 9 to 5. And tonight we'll probably have a black tie affair in there. That's the beauty of what we do and the role we serve in college football.
Oh, so much fun. Dennis Adamovich, my friend, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
It's always great to have you in the house.
All right. Well, folks, if you haven't been to the College Football Hall of Fame, you got to get here. Okay? You got to get here. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, all right, and welcome back to Atlanta, Georgia, here at the College Football Hall of Fame. See some of the uniforms there. And what has been a busy day at the College Football Hall of Fame. Just down the road here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium tomorrow, we will have the College Football Playoff semifinals.
Can't wait, baby.
Oh, it is going to be awesome. And that voice, ladies and gentlemen, my man Marty Smith, there's the guys. There he is. Hey, folks, we are going to do something fun with Marty. Marty and I are going to talk to the top of the hour about ball and maybe about racing and about all this kind of stuff. And then we're going to bring Marty back at the top of the hour, and we're going to take your phone calls at 855-242-7285. And Mr. Smith, you've been here. You came here on December 22nd?
I did, yes, sir. Got down here early and was here for LSU's arrival on the evening of the 22nd and was avidly watching Clyde Edwards-Helaire walk off that bus to see kind of how his giddy-up looked. And Coach O came off first, of course, and then a couple of other coaches, including Coach Robinson, whom he reveres, John Robinson, the legend.
Absolutely.
And then Joe Burrow walked off, and then Clyde walked off. And I didn't see any hitch at the time. But as the week has progressed, we've kind of heard the same narrative from Coach O. We expect him to play. We don't know if he's going to play. And if he does play, we don't know what that's going to look like because he hasn't practiced. And I know this about Clyde. Clyde's an underdog story. Clyde is a guy that was underappreciated until this year. And he's one of those guys that's tougher than woodpecker lips. And if he can even walk, I would imagine they'll have to tie him down in order not to be on that field. But, you know, at the same time, Tony, you kind of have to look at the long play here too, right?
We're talking 16 days between this game and the national championship game.
Right. And so at what point do you look at it and say, okay, what opportunity is there for further injury? And it's a hamstring injury, so probably some. Do we just shut him down and count on those other three guys and Joe Burrow to do their thing? We'll see what Joe Brady and Steve Ensminger and those guys decide, but he's a matchup nightmare. Edwards-Helaire has been a matchup nightmare for defenses all year long because he's a really good blocker. He's an amazing runner, and he's one of the best pass catchers out of the backfield in America.
Well, and when LSU has the lead at Alabama and is trying to put the game away, who do they go to? They went to Clyde Edwards. They went to 22. And he either caught the ball or ran the ball and helped them run out the clock.
I have this great video on my phone right there. I happened to be that last touchdown of the game. I happened to be standing right there on that goal line when he ran right by me. He, boom! He hit those guys, bounced off, and went straight in to seal that win, the landmark win in Coach O's LSU tenure.
No doubt, one of the biggest wins they've had because of what it meant. All right, let's go to the other side. You followed Oklahoma as well. The vibe that everybody got here yesterday doing media days, I don't think they're all that happy to talk to us
Salty.
right now. Yeah.
I said it when I first saw Lincoln when they first got here. They got here on the 23rd, and I interviewed him shortly after he did his very first media address. And as I was interviewing him, I was like, man, he is salty, and I don't blame him. We've seen Jalen Hurts' approach all year long. Jalen doesn't ride the roller coaster. Right. Jalen is this all the time. And I couldn't be a bigger fan of Jalen Hurts because of the young man he is, the way that he's handled himself throughout this entire journey. First freshman quarterback to ever start for Nick Saban, all right? Leads him to a national championship game, loses his job in a movie script that Tua Tagovailoa wrote, got better as a quarterback, as a second stringer, leads Alabama when Tua couldn't go in the second half of the SEC title game last year to a conference championship, earns a degree, which to me is amazing. And then he transfers over to Oklahoma and follows two Heisman Trophy winners and has had a Heisman caliber season himself and done it all with such tremendous grace. But don't you dare think for a second that he is even remotely satisfied.
Nope.
Because he wants to go shock the world tomorrow afternoon.
Right. Yeah, because all these people said, well, he doesn't throw it like those other guys. He didn't do this like the other guys. But he just finds ways to win football games. Yep.
He's a winner, and he always has been since he was in 8th grade. All he's known how to do was win. Coach's son, extremely tough, extremely mentally tough. And I knew when he got in this Lincoln Riley offense, which of course produced Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray and just puts up video game numbers every single season, that Jalen was going to have a special year. But what he showed from the jump, I had his season opener against Houston. Right. And you could see right then that they were going to let him throw the football. He's an elite runner. I think LSU will treat him like a running back that throws tomorrow. I think that's what we're going to see in terms of schematic, their schematic approach defensively. But he can throw the ball, and he's developed as a passer tremendously.
Right. Listen, I understand that Oklahoma has the attitude, and they should be. I understand that.
I don't blame them,
But there's some real-world holes in this football team right now. When you lose your best pass rusher in Perkins, when you lose one of the leading tacklers, the second leading tackler in your secondary, those are some real holes that exist.
There's no question because, it impacts your depth. And when you look at the situation with losing a safety, and to your point, second leading tackler, leader on that defensive unit, you're losing dynamic athletes. Best pass rusher, second leading tackler at safety. And LSU doesn't slow down, okay? They're going to run you to death. And so I think what you're looking at is it could be a depth issue. It's a shame for Oklahoma, certainly, because it is two dynamic players that would have had quite a say in this.
I asked Laura Rutledge this question. I'm going to ask it of you. We've covered this game. We've watched great stories come and go. We know about LSU. We know about their history. But is there any way to put into context what LSU has done in the space of one calendar year in terms of changing the culture of that football program?
I think it was I think there's so many variables involved in it. I've spent so much time in Baton Rouge this season, Tony. I need an apartment there now too. Tuscaloosa, Clemson, South Carolina, and now Baton Rouge. I need an apartment. So I've been around them so much, and what you have is a guy in Coach O, who many didn't feel like should have that job. Okay, he is Louisiana, but a lot of people didn't believe in it. Okay. Joe Burrow, this Ohio kid, this Midwestern kid, comes over. He didn't win the job at Ohio State, loses it to Dwayne Haskins. He comes south. He was a game manager 1 year ago. And then Joe Brady travels I-10 to Baton Rouge from New Orleans. And the very first day Joe Burrow looked at that play installation, he said, where in the hell did this come from? Where'd this come from? That's when they knew it was going to be different.
All right, Marty, we're going to take a break. We come back. We're here to take your calls. What was your takeaway from media days?
Oklahoma is very disinterested in talking to all of us. Why
would that be?
They don't want to talk to us at all. LSU, I've seen LSU 5-6 times now, so like they're always personable. But Oklahoma just seemed like they didn't want to be here, and honestly, like that could be a byproduct of them taking the Jalen Hurts mindset. You know, it's almost like that Oklahoma has been Sabanized without actually having Nick Saban on that team. So because you basically have a clone of Nick Saban at the quarterback spot. So that was my biggest takeaway, and the size. And I know, like, you come to these games and you see teams from different parts of the country, and most of the time I'm in the SEC.
Size of LSU versus size of Oklahoma.
It's like looking at varsity versus JV.
Really?
Yeah, with the exception of a few guys like Neville Gallimore and some of those guys. I mean, LSU looks like an NFL team compared to Oklahoma.
The question is, does it fundamentally change what LSU wants to do if he can't play?
Not necessarily, because they still want to pass to set up the run. They're not going to keep a running back in to block all that much because LSU doesn't really do that as much as they have in years past. It does change a little bit about how they operate. I think more specifically with Thaddeus Moss, because Joe Burrow has said consistently as the season has gone on that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the MVP of the team because he provides that safety valve. If these long, slow developing routes, if he's under pressure, he knows Clyde's going to be where Clyde's supposed to be. Can you trust Davis Price or any of the other guys to do that? And the answer is probably no, because they haven't done it. But you do know that Thaddeus Moss is an extremely gifted and multidimensional talent. He can stress you up the seam at tight end, but we've seen at times him be the guy that sort of leaks out in the flat and becomes that safety valve. So I think it does change a little bit about what they do, but in reality, is it going to make a huge difference? I don't think so, because I think Clyde's best work and the most important things that he has done are close games out, specifically the Alabama game. I mean, you've stood next to him. I've stood next to him. I'm 6 feet tall. They lift him at 5'10". He ain't 5'10". He's 5'7", 5'8". And that might be generous.
He is a fire plug.
But he hits you hard. And the fact that he has that kind of ability and that kind of impact and can take over a game like that, that's what he does best, and that's what that team needs in those spots. We don't know if Davis Price or John Emery or those guys can do that.
The weekend's full of surprises, from big upsets to rivalries. On the Finebaum show, Paul's on a roll. If he don't get the best of me, call Paul. He'll make sense of it all. Yeah, we'll call Paul.
And welcome back to my hometown of Atlanta, Georgia. There's the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. There's inside the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. 4 o'clock tomorrow. Number 1 LSU versus Oklahoma. They're the two head coaches right there, Lincoln Riley and Coach Ed Orgeron. We are in the College Football Hall of Fame today. If you haven't been here, folks, you need to go if you care about college football. Happy to be joined by my man Marty Smith. These are your people.
That's my legion right there.
These are your people right here.
14
hey, folks,
of them.
We're going to do something fun here. We're going to take your calls at 855-242-7285 for Marty Smith. And let's start with the calls right now. And let's go to William, 'em, from Louisiana. William, you're on with Marty Smith.
Hey, Marty, how you doing, man? Good show. I watch you and McGee. Y'all are very, very funny. I want to give a little shout-out to my boy Tommy because I know he's a LSU guy. Glad that we got a little bit of LSU slant on that. I want to address the fake Beham Red fans who I respect Jalen. I respect Oklahoma. Just really tired, really sick and tired of hearing about, LSU's season, how we didn't deserve it, how we don't, begin to be there, how in the world that, that way, I can't get over that they cannot get past if they got beat this year. 8 years, okay? 8 years as LSU fans, we dealt with this, okay? We dealt with it. We handled it. We went on ahead. We done what we had to do. Now, the 1 year that we do win with a prolific offense from from Sean Payton's offense at the Saints, by the way, 28-3. Shout out to the dome, the fake dome over there. We just want to sit there and just say, I've never called this show all like that. I'm glad my man's on there. Marty, I love your show. I love my other boys on TOL. Watch all the time, both shows. Great, wonderful program, and go Tigers. Or as my coaches speak, go Tigers.
Go Tigers. All right, Will, we appreciate you calling. Let's
Thank
go
you, sir.
to Louisiana Dan. Louisiana Dan, you're on with Marty Smith.
Hey, Tony. Hey, Marty.
What's going on, Dan? What you got?
Man, I wanted to talk to you. Marty, I don't know if you'll get a chance, but if you do, please tell Jalen it hurts when you scramble against LSU.
Oh, he got jokes. I will do that.
Okay. I appreciate it.
All right, Dan.
All right, we'll talk to y'all later.
All right, Dan, we appreciate you calling.
Thank
Let's go
you.
to Hank.
Enjoy.
Let's go to Hank in South Carolina. Hank, you're on with Marty Smith.
Hey, how you doing? Tony, doing a great job up there, bud.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Hey, I want to know about Cooley, James Coley. I'm a little worried that Kirby seems to be dead strong on keeping him around. In my opinion, he doesn't seem to be developing quarterbacks. I mean, we let Fields get out of there, and it seems like he has made Fromm regress into, bad habits. I don't know what Kirby's thinking. I mean, I do believe in Kirby and want him to stay, but I just believe he needs to relinquish some of his control over the offense and get him somebody young in there. I thought Kendall Browse would have been a good thing, like Pittman did. I'm just wondering what your opinion on Kirby needing to get him a coordinator in there and turn the offense over to them.
All right. Well, Hank, we appreciate you calling. Marty, this is something that's changing the SEC. I mean, Nick Saban goes to the more wide open, hires Lane Kiffin, goes more wide open. Obviously, we talked about what Coach O did at LSU. I think we're getting to the point now, most of the team, you're going to have to make this change. I don't know that you can keep scoring 24, 27 points a game and think that you're going to win no matter how good your defense is. And I live here. I hear from the Georgia people all the time.
Coach O calls it basketball on grass now.
Yep.
And I agree with that. I mean, everything's a track meet. And I will say that the offense at Georgia this season did seem to regress.
Yeah.
It did. It did not look as precise. They still had elite players, but I'm not in any way, shape, or form going to give Coley a pass, but I will say this, and this also goes for Jake Fromm. Lawrence Cager was his best target.
No doubt.
Lawrence Cager was beat up all year long. That kid was a warrior to be on the field when he was there, okay? Now, if you cannot pass it, obviously it makes running it a little bit more difficult. Some people have been very critical of that offensive line, which most of us at the beginning of the season, along with Oregon, felt like was the best in the country. Did they go out and dominate defensive lines? It's a subjective question. But they certainly were not dynamic very often from my perspective, and I saw them play, I saw them play a few times.
Right. Well, and here's the thing is from the South Carolina game on for Georgia, the only time that Jake Fromm looked like he was comfortable is when Cager was on the field.
Right.
He was on the field for the Florida game.
Right.
Jake had his best game of the year, 20 of 30. Cager had a big game, and it was clear that that was his security blanket. And the other guys, while talented, just weren't able to get the separation on quality defensive backs.
By the way, you can't put Justin Fields transferring on James Coley. Just put that out the window here. Justin Fields transferred because Jake Fromm is a very good football player. Did he have the type of year all of us were expecting? No. But he's a very good football player, a tremendous leader. He started 74,000 games now at Georgia. And he also, just for the record, Eason got injured, but sent Jacob Eason to Washington. So there's a lot of dynamics involved in it. It's not any one thing, but if they, Coley has to open that playbook up some.
Yep.
Okay.
Right. And really, I'm sure they're thinking they've got running backs, they'll have running backs, and these wide receivers will grow up. And they went out and signed a bunch more during the signing period.
Had to.
So that to me, the Jake Fromm thing is really interesting to me because he hasn't said yet whether or not he is coming back next year. To me, that's going to be an interesting decision.
Very interesting decision because, you kind of have to look at. I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to. I don't talk to a whole lot of NFL GMs every single day, so I don't know where they kind of had him entering the season. But I know he's elite. Yep. He is, and so we'll see where all that shakes out and what his decision is. But I think he could raise his stock. Look, Joe Burrow's going to go really high. Tua's still going to go really high. There's some really good players in this draft, and then next year you got Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and those guys. So I don't know, difficult.
We will see. All right, let's take a call from Turner. Turner, you are on with Marty Smith.
Hey, Marty, how you doing?
Phenomenal, Turner. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Just want to start and say roll tide, Marty. But I just want to talk to you about on your thoughts if you think Tua is going to be coming back next year.
Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea. I've not talked to him about that. I don't know. I don't know where his mind is. I'm sure as we progress on down the line here, as we get closer to the draft, and he starts to get some feedback from where his draft position will be. I know he said to Kirk Herbstreit, Herbie sat him down a couple weeks back, and he said to Herbie, if I'm top 15, that's going to be hard to say no. So
right.
We'll see kind of where those projections are for him, but I just hate it for him that this happened because he's a generational talent. His accuracy is just unbelievable. His leadership, he's grown so much in terms of commanding a Nick Saban football team. And so I just hate that he's been injured so much.
Right.
Oh, he's different for sure.
I just don't know if we've seen anybody in this conference with that kind of arm talent who can throw the deep ball that consistently.
It's just unbelievable. And when you look at the talent that he had on the perimeter, it's just an embarrassment of riches. And with his skill set coupled with Waddle and Judy and Smith and all those guys, it's just very difficult to stop. And I don't know what he's going to do yet, but whatever he's going to do, he's going to be wildly successful. Because I tell you one thing about Tua that I admire so much, and I told him this myself. His example as a man with the way that he reacts to adversity and how his faith drives everything and how every single part of his life he sees through that prism with such grace is something we can all learn from. And he's a generational football talent, but he's a phenomenal man. And his whole family's great.
I agree with that.
Indeed.
That's right.
All right,
well,
Brams,
thank you for talking to me, Marty. I appreciate you, and roll tide,
Appreciate the call, brother. Happy New Year.
Yes, sir.
All right, Brams, we have time for one more call. Linda. How
is it Cornbread Linda?
Yeah, this is Cornbread Linda. No, you
Cornbread Linda.
Sweet Kate.
I missed you, girl. What's up?
I miss you
Linda
too.
from Argo.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. All that
Yes,
good
ma'am.
stuff.
You too. I hope you had a good one.
I am so excited to talk. I talked to Tony yesterday. Well, Sweet Tea. You know, I'm going to call him Sweet Tea. And yesterday, and now I get to talk to Tony, Sweet Tea, and my cornbread.
Oh, Cornbread Maxwell.
Day.
I love it.
I love it. So how's Puddin' doing?
Me and Puddin will be back on January 18th, so you can call us every Saturday morning.
I will be calling in.
Yes, ma'am. We look forward to it.
Bright and early. East Central Time. Listen,
I think he's doing great.
Well, good. I hope. What's his wife's name? Well, I'll be
Erica.
Erica. Yeah, I hope Erica
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Laney's doing good, and your little big
They are.
girl.
You
your
can say hi to
daughter and
Laney.
your
I think she might be
daughter
watching right now.
Really?
I think so.
Well, hey, Erica and Laney and everyone. Little Puddin' and little cornbread.
When Linda calls, it's like a family reunion, Tony. It's awesome.
How's your mama and them? That's right.
Yeah, how's mama?
How's mama and them?
Yeah, how's your mom and them? Listen, I say thank you, Cornbread, for saying all those things about Tua Tagovailoa. Oh my goodness, that was just a great representation of Tua, and you know how much I appreciate that being an Alabama fan. But let's get to football. Alabama's going to beat Michigan. That's what Tony was telling me yesterday. I really believe Alabama's going to beat Michigan. And here's one for you. I think LSU is going to win it all.
You think, all right, so you're calling LSU before the playoff games, Linda. All right, I like it.
Yeah.
Well,
I think they're going to win it all. That's really the way I feel. So,
well,
and Alabama's going to beat Michigan, roll tide, all that good stuff. Just go Dogs for Sweet Tea. And
thank you for calling us, Linda.
Hey, Linda,
we love you, girl.
We love you. We got to go. Okay, hey, we got to take a break. Partner, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your kindness always, Tony.
Good to see you. All right, we're going to take a break. We come back. We're here to take your calls at 855-24.
Ain't nothing better than Grandma's home cooking. Just ask Nana G's grandbabies.
You want those 5 or 10?
Her grandson wanted to spread the love, so he started rolling down the streets of Atlanta. Bacon-infused Belgian waffles with 2 piping hot chicken tenders that have been soaking for 48 hours in Nana G's top-secret buttermilk batter. Man, would you look at that. Sweet and savory Southern goodness.
All right, welcome back to Atlanta, Georgia. We are at the College Football Hall of Fame. If you haven't been here, folks, you need to get here. And tomorrow, 4 o'clock, we're going to have the College Football Hall of Fame at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. All right, now we have everybody back. Tony Barnhart sitting in for Paul Finebaum. We're here to take your calls until 7 o'clock at 855-242-7285. I know. Let's go to some calls right now. Let's go to Matt in Louisiana. Hello, Matt. It's Tony Barnhart.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I got a quick comment real quick. I had a caller that called in earlier and was saying that LSU was overlooking Oklahoma. Do they not forget that Coach O overlooks nobody?
He doesn't. I have heard nobody say that LSU's overlooking Oklahoma. I think they understand how hard they had to work to get here. They understand the dynamic offense that is Oklahoma, and I don't think that's happening at all.
Yeah, it was just one of them Bama fans. He kind of made the comment, but you know I guarantee you, Coach O's got them ready because. I mean, they played, 3 or 4 playoff contenders, this season, and that being, Bama being one of them, and Coach O ain't going to overlook nobody. I don't care if it's, BYU again.
Nope. You're right, Matt. That's not going to happen. Listen, we appreciate you calling. Let's go to Mike in Des Moines, Iowa. Hello, Mike. What's the weather in Des Moines today?
Hey, you know what? It's right now the high is around 44. It's not as cold. It was 60 on Christmas Day, brother. I was out in the grilling on the grill just like I did growing up in the South. So interesting weather. Listen, I grew up an LSU fan. Hey, Marty, how are you today as well?
Well, Marty was with us. Unfortunately, he had to go do another commitment, but we had a blast with Marty.
All right. So, Tony, I grew up an LSU fan. I heard you on the radio in Nashville, though, with Joe and Willie and all those guys. That was where I moved as an adult. I lived there for several years. And memory serves, you had a Saturday morning show on a station in Nashville for a while, too.
Well, thank you. I do a show with Doug Matthews, former Tennessee
that's him.
assistant coach.
I remember
we have a lot of fun.
Guy. Yeah, so a couple things on calls from earlier. I've been listening while I've been on hold. And Adrian Peterson started at Oklahoma the year after the BCS championship game.
The 04 season. That's right.
Yeah, and the other thing is Michael Divinity left the week of the Alabama game, came back, had been practicing with the team, and may still be as far as I heard last, but Coach O said that if he was able to play, he would not be cleared until the national championship game if they were to make it. So it would be after January.
You know what? To tell you the truth, I don't expect. I don't expect Clyde Edwards-Helaire to play. I mean, I know they're trying.
I'm talking about Divinity. Michael Divinity.
Oh, Divinity. Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
A caller asked about Michael Divinity. He came back and practiced with the team last time I saw, but the word was if he were cleared to play, it wouldn't be until January. So it would not be. So if he's back on that team, he could possibly play in January, but that decision had not been made, and that's the last I heard on that. But if you remember, there was a guy asking you about that earlier in the call. So that's the last that had been in print about the Divinity situation. Well, thanks for passing that along. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Also, Oklahoma, I also cannot disagree anymore. The guy that called earlier that said that Alabama fans, every once in a while you just got to bite the pill. We had to in Baton Rouge for years. That's a true story. Oklahoma has a talented receiver. We've talked about him over and over. Is he really that much better than Chase or what Jefferson's allowed to do in open field as well? LSU's got a lot of threats too, right? Thad Moss has been good. They got 3 quality receivers in Marshall. And then you may see some of those running backs get numbers, but look for guys like a Derek Dillon or a Ricey McMath or something running some like little short escape routes and maybe being able to pick up some guys and maybe catching that ball short and being able to turn that into some plays because those guys have made some plays for LSU over the years. They just got surpassed by some really talented wide receivers who Oklahoma's going to focus on. So it'll be fascinating to see how that turns out. In the end, I think that tomorrow at least, I think LSU's got more threats, and I think Jalen Hurts will make more mistakes than Joe Burrow. So I'll pick the Tigers tomorrow.
All right, Mike, I appreciate you calling. Let's go to Paul in Louisiana. Paul, this is Tony Barnhart.
Hey, Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
I was just wondering, what's y'all's feelings on, how do y'all feel about Miles Brennan stepping in next Miles Brennan stepping in next year at quarterback? Y'all think he'll be anything near as good as Joe Burrow, or do you think he has the talent?
Yeah, it's going to be hard to compare anybody to Joe Burrow, but the fact of the matter is Miles Brennan was a very highly recruited player. And almost won the job earlier in his career. I think he's got talent. Now we'll see if he's got all the other intangibles that Joe Burrow had. I tell you what, how would you like to be the guy who follows Joe Burrow? How hard is that going to be?
That's going to be a chore. But I think he has. If you'll notice, every time that anything happens at the game, he's always there. He's there with Joe Burrow always. He throws a touchdown, Miles Brennan's the first one there. Anything he does good, Miles is there for him.
Well, I promise you this, Miles Brennan is saying, you know what? This guy, after this year is gone, I need to stay close to this guy and figure out how he does it, and maybe some of what he's got will rub off on me next year if I can win this job. Okay. All right, Brams, we got any more callers? All right, we're going to take a break.
Here with Joe Burrow. And Joe, you've been on a whirlwind tour picking up so many awards. So I wanted to know kind of the moment you redialed in and got back to campus, refocused on the task at hand.
Right when I got on the plane after New York, I was ready to get back to work and get back to the film room and practice.
So on the plane, did you pull out film or did you start prep right away?
Took a nap. that was me locking back in. So I got back and went straight to the film room.
Of course, you pick up a Heisman, you go back and take a nap. It's perfect. So the film work and the preparation, you guys have been busy here. How have you been able to really be locked in and focused?
It hasn't been hard. This is a playoff game. You know, we know the magnitude of the situation. We have a lot of mature guys on the team.
So guys who film study, quarterbacks, have learned how to be better at that. Tell me how you're preparing for Oklahoma's defense. They're improved.
Yeah, they're really fast. They pop on film. They have a really good coach that I know pretty well, and you know they're going to have a really good scheme for us. So we're going to have to be ready for it.
Your offense was rolling at the end of the season. You get this layoff. It's not too long, but how do you get that chemistry and that timing back with your wide receivers?
Yeah, you could see the rust at the beginning, you know, last week, and you know we've knocked it off pretty quickly. Doesn't take that long, but you know we've had a couple really good practices here.
Okay, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is obviously a question mark with his injury. You guys throw to him a ton out of the backfield. I think he has 50 receptions this year. So how does that impact that kind of dump down game and that running back game?
Yeah, Clyde is, you know, one of our best players and best leaders. But I think he'll be able to play. I think he'll be just fine. You know, okay. he's been in the training room. He's been running around at practice, so he's been looking good.
Okay, awesome. Anything that you have learned throughout this whole process about yourself? You know, you've been all over the news, everywhere. Like, what have you learned about yourself in the last couple of weeks?
It's a good question. I don't know. I think I'm just a ball player that likes to throw the ball around and be with the guys and have fun and play football.
Okay, I think I've learned that you're a really good three-point shooter. How did you go 10 for 12 in the three-point shootout?
You know, I had to knock off the shooting arm a little bit. You know, my guys didn't think I could play ball, but I'm a pretty decent basketball player too.
As if you needed any more credibility, how did that improve your credibility with your teammates?
They respected me a little bit more, surprisingly. They really did.
So it wasn't the Heisman, it was the three-point shooting?
It was the three-point shooting, absolutely.
I love it. Thank you, Joe.
Yep, you got it.
All right. This is the Fan Fest here, boys and girls, here at the College Football Hall of Fame. One of the neat things of this whole building is kids can kick field goals and pass and have a blast. Folks, if you haven't been to the College Football Hall of Fame, you have got to come here if you care about college football. Everything is here. When I say everything is here, I really mean it, because you know who else is here besides your friend Tony Barnhart? Our friend Greg McElroy is here. How are you, my man?
What's happening, man? It's good to see you.
Good. It's always good to talk ball with you.
I think it's appropriate that Mr. College Football is sitting here in the College Football Hall of Fame.
Well, bless your heart. I appreciate that. Big picture, Greg, on this game. We know about the different storylines, but as you sit there and break down these two teams, let's start with the underdog. Is there a path for Oklahoma, and if there is a path, what is it?
Turnovers.
Yeah.
I think that's the ultimate neutralizer. And big plays. I know it sounds like coach speak, but those two things determine wins and losses more than anything else in college football because it's such a momentum game. And when you look at the momentum that can be seized with a turnover or a big play or a counterpoint, now what it can be created with a turnover or big play, it's massive. And I look at just tail of the tape, starting 22 for both Oklahoma and LSU, and on paper, it shouldn't be close. It really shouldn't.
Right.
Now, granted, the ultimate neutralizer are mistakes. And if they make mistakes, the LSU Tigers, that is, and Oklahoma is able to run the ball consistently with Jalen Hurts, then that's their path to keeping this game competitive into the fourth quarter.
So Jalen Hurts, the narrative of this game goes, he's got to protect the football. He's had some issues protecting the football this year. So that's number one. But number two, he's got to keep the chains moving with his leg or with his arm. But you've got to cut back on Joe Burrow's possessions if you're going to have a chance to win this game.
I think that's a really interesting point because I've been thinking about that a little bit. When was the last time Oklahoma's offense was tasked with, hey, we got to squat on it, we got to hold the football, we got to keep the opposing offense off the field? Because usually it's the other way around. It's, hey, we got to keep the ball, we got to control the clock because we don't want the Oklahoma offense on the field. That's not the case in this particular game because if you look at the matchups that Oklahoma's going to have offensively, yes, they'll have some advantageous opportunities, and I think they'll have some opportunities to run the football. But Joe Burrow and company with that incredible skill set at wide receiver, curious about the impact of Clyde Edwards-Helaire possibly not being at 100%. I don't expect him to be. I expect his role to be very limited, and if anything, maybe be a decoy in the game, which is not necessarily the worst role that you can have, knowing that he's nursing a hamstring injury. But that matchup between LSU's offense and Oklahoma's defense is a very one-sided matchup. There's not a lot of matchups that I can see on the Oklahoma side against this LSU group that I feel like are advantageous.
Greg, as a quarterback, you watched Jalen Hurts play 3 years at Alabama. You saw him have incredible highs. Almost won the national championship as a freshman, SEC Player of the Year. Loses his job in 2017 in this building down the road here. Comes back, wins the SEC championship off the bench for Alabama at the same building down the road. When he goes to Oklahoma, what were your thoughts about how Lincoln Riley was going to use his skill set? He's not like the other guys. He's different. What did you think he was going to do, and what has Lincoln Riley actually done with him?
I think one thing that's been encouraging is how he hasn't completely deviated away from who Jalen Hurts really is. Jalen Hurts is an excellent runner. He's a power runner more specifically, and he is not going to be a super twitchy, like Kyler Murray. He's not going to be a super twitchy, create behind the line of scrimmage and throw the ball with remarkable accuracy down the field. He's improved in those areas, but that's not his bread and butter. His bread and butter is quarterback-designed runs between the tackles and in scramble drill opportunities. He's not always going to look and keep his eyes downfield trying to distribute the football. He's looking to create lanes so he can gash the defense north and south. So I think Lincoln Riley's done a great job of subtly adapting to what Jalen Hurts is most comfortable doing. He did the same thing for Kyler Murray because Kyler Murray's skill set was different from that of Baker Mayfield. So I think they've reverted back a little bit more to Baker Mayfield, except not as much genuine drop back. It's more off scramble. It's more off movement. It's more off things that allow Jalen Hurts to use his athleticism more than kind of operating as a drop back passer.
You played quarterback in this league. You won a national championship in the Southeastern Conference. Can you put into context what LSU has done with Joe Burrow? Because we saw Joe Burrow play a year ago. Okay. But then you put him in an offense that takes advantage of his skill sets. And if he gets 285 yards tomorrow, he'll have 5,000.
Yeah, it's amazing.
No player in the history of this conference has thrown for 5,000 yards.
I'll be the first one to tell you. We had them week 9 last year. I think if you were to ask Ed Ogeron too, he'd tell you, Joe is a good player, solid player. We had him week 9. I watched his first 8 games because I was interested in him, and I obviously cover the league closely and love watching quarterbacks, and I thought he was very average. I mean, throughout the course of the first 8 games last year, but something went down in the 7 overtime game against Texas A&M. It was as if he realized, hey, I got to do more. I can do more. I'm going to do more. And then you saw that kind of trickle into the bowl game. So he used that entire bowl season to really work on taking a little more ownership. And he played very well against UCF. And then, of course, the transition to this offense, it further proves that to get recruited at this level, you have to have really good skill. There's no denying that. Everyone that starts in Division I football can throw it. Everyone that starts in the Southeastern Conference can throw it. But there are certain things that come to the forefront when the big lights get bright. And the thing that I'll say, and even doing Joe Burrow games this year, when you watch him in practice, it's like, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, I mean, you watch him in a game, that's the best player in America. Why is that? And there's some intangible quality that some guys just have. And they just seem to get bigger and better and play better with more consistency the bigger the moment becomes. And that's been him. I think he's refined his craft quite a bit in the way he moves in the pocket, how he always keeps his feet underneath him, and he's always keeping his eyes downfield regardless of the traffic that's going on. As he's getting ready to get hit, he's still accurate with the football and being able to deliver to the open receiver. So I've been so impressed with how he's grown, and I've been so impressed with the confidence he's displayed throughout the course of the first 13 games.
Well, I wanted to ask you about a specific play, the game against Texas in Austin. I'm sitting there watching that game. It's a 3rd and long.
Yeah.
They got to have a big play.
Right.
He drops back, and he doesn't scramble. He just takes a slight little shift to find a gap. And then when he made that shift, the guy wasn't open. When he made the shift, just a couple of feet,
completely,
he threw it And it's a touchdown. And
it's all about
you
time.
can't teach that.
You can't teach it, and it's about timing, and it's all about creating just a little bit more time in a throwing position to allow your receivers to uncover. And I thought that was a great example, but there were other throws in that game that led you to start to think, okay, this guy's something. I mean, because even the first game, okay, they played, but oh, wow, that was nice performance against a solid Group of 5 program, all good. Texas, we even thought to ourselves, Texas maybe not great on defense, a lot of young players, let's see how they handle it. But it was really the game against Alabama where I was most impressed because it was the timely running and the ability to just extend drives a little bit more on third down when there's good coverage. He's able to make a guy miss and create another first down to keep the defense on the field on a 3rd and long. On 3rd and 10, there's the pressure overloaded on the right side. Dump it off, no problem. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, go make a play for me, Clyde. He makes a guy miss, 1st and 10. He did the little things so exceptionally well in the most critical moments. And I became immediately a believer in what his capabilities were because he had shown signs, he'd shown accuracy, he'd done remarkable things up to that point, had played well against Auburn, even though that was probably his least impressive game, but it was against the best defense. Right. And he's only gotten better throughout the course of the season. So yes, the Texas game showed us it was possible, but that was just the beginning to where he's at now and where he eventually got to in playing against the likes of Georgia and some of the other great teams they played in November.
Well, you brought up Clyde Edwards-Helaire. One of the things I wondered about, you mentioned the drive to put the game away against Alabama. Helaire is his check-down guy on these longer developing routes, and I guess other guys can play that role, but Helaire is so good at it, of being right where he's supposed to be for the check-down.
Well, I think we talk so much about why they went to this offense, and it's very quarterback-friendly. You pick a matchup. They have great receivers. You have a really good tight end that can stretch the field vertically and be physical in the run game. But this shift to this style of offense was as much about Clyde Edwards-Helaire as it was about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow could identify the matchups and process things quickly, which allowed him to really take this offense from a really efficient offense to the best offense in America. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire ability to play both between the tackles as a runner, on the perimeter as a runner, and on the perimeter as a pass catcher and a route runner, he might be their best slot receiver. And that's no disrespect to Jefferson, but he is. Who do you cover him with? Perfect. You put him in the game. You got 11 personnel. All right, we'll play nickel. All right, that means he's getting a linebacker. Good luck. All right. It's just he's a matchup nightmare, and they have 2 or 3 guys that are similar to that. So his ability potentially to not be a factor in this one is something that you need to be a little bit cognizant of if you're an LSU fan.
All right, love talking ball with Greg McElroy. They tell us we got to go, so we got to go. Okay, right, thank you, my friends. Good to see you with you.
Sounds good.
All right,
great to have to be here. I thought the guys have done a great job at the bowl here. Has been very fun, very much a good time. Houston's a great town. The guys enjoy being here. I have a lot of guys from here, but a lot of guys that aren't. But I've had a good time, a lot of good festivities and things that are going on, and practice very well. Got great venues and got a great bowl game. I mean, the Academy Sports Texas Bowl is doing a great job with our kids. They've enjoyed every minute of it, and now we'll get ready to play this game tomorrow. So looking forward to it. Got a great opponent. Oklahoma State's a heck of a football team, top 25 team in the country. Played some great games, played some very spectacular games, very dynamic on offense. The tailback and Hubbard is phenomenal, and they can throw it. Quarterback's back, the offensive line, they're no huddle. Defensively, a lot of problems with the different blitzes and the 3-3 schemes and the 4-down schemes and all that. So. And Mike's done a great job, so we'll have our hands full. Got to play a great game, and looking forward to playing. I know of it. I know the history. I'm a history buff of college football. I mean, I know the old interconference rivalries and the things that meant in the players, and I respect that. And I think it's great for college football. And that's one of the unique things about bowl games now with all your realignments across the board, where the old, for instance, Nebraska, Oklahoma don't play anymore. Things like that. That happens. I mean, because when you're realigning, people move all the time, but to be able to get back in a bowl game and play that, I think that's awesome. It's a great feeling because it sends you off in the offseason with a great positive note, and you want to win the bowl game and you want to play well. But it's still 2 different football teams. I don't care what that group. This is the last time this group of guys will ever play on a football field together. See, when you put that in perspective, you don't think about that. I mean, this exact group of guys, this is the last time they'll ever play together. So that dynamic of that team is right now. You want to end it great for them. It's a great positive experience for your guys learning how to prepare for a bowl game, how to mentally get ready, how to have the preparations, because that's an art. Listen, we're the only sport in America that ends its season and waits a month to play. I I mean, think about it. Nothing. Basketball rolls into it. Football. I mean, baseball. We always say this in pro baseball. Remember the teams that win in the divisional series? They'll go 4-0, and the other team will go 7 games. Well, they're setting for 5 days, and they come back and look like they can't hit a ball or pitch a ball or throw a ball. I mean, that's the dynamic, and I think there's an art to that. So for your young guys, the ability to understand how to prepare for a bowl game, I think that's very good. It carries on. And it's a great feeling going in the offseason that you had success in the games. I mean, it's a great for your program. There's no doubt you want to win the game. But, as far as going into the next season, that team has to develop its own identity, its own culture, because the guys on the team previously aren't there anymore. There's some guys that are going to change. You bring in a whole new group of guys that you guys have all spoiled and told them how great they are. And they're all superstars in the recruiting world, and they're all going to start as freshmen. So I got to deal with that when they get back. No, I joke about that. But, it is. I mean, it's a great feeling, but, it's still 2 different teams.
All right, night has fallen on Atlanta, Georgia. We are here at the College Football Hall of Fame getting ready for tomorrow's CFP semifinal at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl between number 1 LSU and number 4 Oklahoma. Should be fun. All right, welcome back to everybody. As you see, we're at the College Football Hall of Fame. They're going to have some fancy shindig here tonight, as they do most nights here, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. We are so glad that you have joined us today. Tony Barnhart sitting in for Paul Finebaum, and we're here to 7 o'clock Eastern to take your calls at 855-242-7285. But now we are going to go to Houston, Texas. We just had the great Greg McElroy here. Now we are joined by Alyssa Lang, the man or the person who keeps Greg McElroy out of trouble. Alyssa, how are you?
I'm good. I don't know if you can give me that title as the person that keeps them out of trouble, because I don't know how successful I am at that endeavor, but it was a great year with those guys, as always, on Thinking Out Loud. But each of us now spread across our separate bowl assignments. I was lucky to get the Texas Bowl here in Houston.
Well, let's talk about the Texas Bowl a little bit. We saw some footage earlier today, Alyssa, about Jimbo Fisher saying, yeah, it's good to win this game. It gives you a little momentum going into spring practice and things like that. You tell us, Alyssa, you've watched Texas A&M. What's on the line for them tonight?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a lot of momentum if they can get a win going into the postseason. Just looking back at the kind of year they had a brutal schedule. We know that. We knew that going into the season. We know that looking back at the way their year turned out. And it's pretty impressive what they were able to do, taking on 3 number 1 teams this season: Clemson, LSU, Alabama. I mean, it's incredible what this team had to go up against. So if you can win a game like this one, a huge bowl game with the Academy Sports and Outdoors Texas Bowl against another really good program in Oklahoma State, that not only gives you some momentum going into the postseason, going into the winter months, spring camp, to be able to start fresh, but it also gives you a little bit of help when it comes to recruiting too, because we all know Texas is a gold mine when it comes to high school football. Jimbo Fisher knows that. Texas A&M knows that. Oklahoma State knows that as well, because they are deep here in Texas when it comes to recruiting. So just the opportunity to be able to come into a stadium like this one here in the middle of Houston, knowing that a lot of people are watching this game, it's going to help for your future recruits too.
Now, Alyssa, update us a little bit on the running back situation. Did I read this right, that Texas A&M was down to Isaiah Spiller as their one scholarship running back? Where do they stand right now on that?
Yeah, that's correct. One scholarship running back for Texas A&M. Of course, Jashaun Corbin entering the transfer portal. They've dealt with some injury as well, so they'll look to Isaiah to carry much of the load. Also, Connor Blumrick will probably get some reps when it comes to back as well, which is really interesting when you look at what they're going to be facing in Oklahoma State's offense. They've got a really good running back in Chuba Hubbard, and if you haven't heard of him, well, he leads the FBS in rushing, and it seems like just about every category when it comes to running back in college football. He's a guy who came from Canada to play his college football at Oklahoma State. Extremely talented. You will certainly see him playing on Sunday. So when it comes to each team's rushing attack, it looks a little different. Good news, though, for Texas A&M. On Oklahoma State's side of the ball defensively, they're without 2 of their 3 starting safeties on defense. So if you ask me, I would expect to see Texas A&M try to go deep early in this game.
Well, to go deep early, they're going to have to. Kevin is going to have to have a big day. Kellen Mond Talk us a little bit about Mond's season, because I saw him have brilliant moments. I saw him have difficult moments. What kind of year has it been for Kellen Mond?
Yeah, it's definitely been one of those up and down years. And every time we talk to Jimbo Fisher about his quarterback, he just tells us about how cerebral Kellen Mond is, how smart he is. He'll make his reads. He knows what to do. He's always that cool, calm, and collected guy. Now, he hasn't had the stats against the really good teams that they've faced this year, but you also have to take into account how many really good teams they faced this year. It's not easy to go from number one to number one to number one week to week to week without feeling a little beat up, if you will. So this is an A&M team that certainly has a lot to prove. They've been making progress year after year. Kellen Mond has certainly made progress as well. I believe he and Johnny Manziel now are the only Texas A&M quarterbacks to throw for over 7,000 yards and rush for over 1,000. So we know he can get it done in the air. We know he can get it done on his feet, but the level of talent they've faced this year hasn't really allowed him to show off, I think, what he might really be capable of. This is a matchup, though, that on paper looks very even. It looks like a very good one. So we might see Mond get out there and really sling it today.
Alyssa, you mentioned Chuba Hubbard earlier. I think he's close to 2,000 yards. Could go over that tonight. When you talk to the Texas A&M defensive coaches, are they willing to commit all the people you got to commit to try to slow this guy down, or are they worried of giving up the big play if they commit too many resources to slow down the run?
Yeah, you know, when you meet with these coaches before each game, you tend to say, hey, what are your keys offensively? What are your keys defensively? Defensively for Texas A&M, it's limit explosive plays and stop Chuba Hubbard. So that box is definitely going to be loaded tonight. They know that he's really their offensive rushing attack. He's the guy that they're going to look to get those short yardage plays and to also bust off and run for 70, 80 yards as we've seen him do all season. The way he's able to find a hole, break tackles is extremely impressive. So you know a lot of their tape study and a lot of their practice has been dedicated to Chuba Hubbard. On the other side of the things, we know Oklahoma State is anticipating that Texas A&M is going to be focused on Chuba Hubbard. They have a couple of running backs behind him, though, that are able to take those carries, that are going to be ready to take some of the pressure off of him as well. So you can't focus on just Chuba, obviously. You might get caught, but Chuba's certainly going to be a huge part of their offensive game plan tonight.
All right, a reminder that the game is on 6:45 p.m. on ESPN. Alyssa Lang, we are so pleased you could join us. Thanks. Have a great call tonight.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're here to take your calls up to the 7 o'clock hour at 855-242-7825. This is Tony Barnhart.
He was getting treatment on that injured hamstring. I asked Ed what his status was for Saturday, and he said he had not practiced all week, had done some straight-ahead running yesterday, but hadn't done any cutting or practicing. You know, they're hoping to get him more involved today. But, you know, I get the feeling that if LSU can get by Oklahoma without him and they can get him healthy for the college football playoff championship game, that would probably be their preference. You know, I think it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what the issues, you know, with timing on offense for all four of these teams after a layoff. But, you know, if the kid's not 100% healthy and you know, he's not going to be 80%, 90%, I don't think the risk is worth it putting him out there. I mean, obviously you can't take Oklahoma for granted, but, you know, if the kid's hamstring strain is severe, then I don't think it's worth putting him out there. But there's no question, if he can't play, it's going to be a big loss for LSU, because he's been such a big part of that offense with his versatility, not only running for over 1,000 yards, but I think he's got 40 catches out of the backfield, 50 catches out of the backfield, so he's one of the more productive running backs in terms of being an integral part of the passing game. I mean, it was really the combination of everything just falling right. You know, I think after his first year, you know, I think Ed was under the hot seat a little bit. I think LSU took a chance on a guy that didn't have a great track record as a head coach. I think he sold them on his vision to be kind of the figurehead head coach and be a tremendous recruiter and bring players into the program. And he was going to hire two really good coordinators and let them do their jobs. And, you know, it took him, I think, an extra year to bring in Joe Brady and really open up the passing game. But, I give him credit. There aren't a lot of guys out there willing to change the way they play on offense completely and turn it over to a transfer quarterback and a really young NFL analyst. It's been incredible to watch. We heard all summer that they were going to open things up and throw it all over the place, and I think you're probably a lot like me. I didn't see it to believe it, and I saw it early at Texas, and with all those receivers and Joe Burrow and Joe Brady and Steve Hinsminger running the offense, it's been pretty incredible.
The weekend's full of surprises, from big upsets to rivalry. On the Finebaum Show, Paul's on a roll. If he don't get the best of me, call Paul. He'll make sense of it all. Yeah, we'll call Paul.
And we are back as nighttime descends on Atlanta, Georgia. We're coming to you live from the College Football Hall of Fame in downtown Atlanta, just down the road at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Tomorrow afternoon, number 1 LSU versus number 4 Oklahoma in the College Football Playoff semifinal in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to talking to one of my good friends, Glenn Guilbeau of USA Today, Louisiana. Outstanding. You cover LSU. You know as much about LSU as anybody that I know. Big picture. Let's start with the obvious question all week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know Coach O has been trying to put the best spin. He's not going to play, is he, Glenn?
I don't think he's going to play. He hasn't practiced all week. He could play, but I just don't think they're going to do it. It would be too risky because he could tweak it easily, and if they don't play him and don't make him practice, don't make him try to do anything, he would have a good 3 or 4 weeks off between the injury on December 17th and the January 13th game, national championship game, if they advance.
So who takes the snaps at running back if it's not Clyde Edwards?
Probably be Tyrion Davis-Price, true freshman, a bigger running back, kind of a bull runner, as Coach O has called him. He's the number 2 guy. And they also have John Emery Jr., who was a commitment to Georgia at one time before he signed with LSU. And they have Chris Curry, a sophomore tailback. None of them are as good or as versatile as Clyde, but Tyrion is a pretty good running back. But LSU is no longer the LSU that we know.
Right.
They're not dependent on a running back, though Clyde is great, and they'll miss him. But I think they'll miss him more against one of the other teams the next round.
Right. Well, and the thing about it is Clyde Edwards-Helaire was so good. I was thinking about the Alabama game. When LSU had to control the football, put that game away, I mean, they're throwing to him, they're running to him, and he was a big part of closing that game out.
No question about it. And it meant a lot to him being from Baton Rouge right there at Catholic High and knowing well the 8 straight losses to Alabama. But he's a 4-tool player. He's a runner. He's a pass receiver. He's a good blocker, and he's a leader of the team. So he's very valuable. But in that Alabama game, I mean, he would not go down. They say yards after catch. Well, he had a lot of yards after initial contact. He's caught 50 passes this year. He's a 1,000-yard rusher. So that's going to be a big miss. But LSU has so many weapons on offense. I think they're going to be able to still win without him.
Glenn, you've covered LSU for a long time. You know the history of that school better than anybody. Can you put into context for us what has actually transpired at LSU in the space of a calendar year from Ed Orgeron's decision to hire Joe Brady? Now, I guess you go back to bringing in Joe Burrow the year before, but really from the decision to hire Joe Brady and to make the commitment finally to change the offense.
Well, it's amazing. They're 13-0. They've only been 13-0 one other time. They could be 14-0 for the first time ever, and that would be great on its own. But when you throw in this offense, which is the greatest offense they've ever had, they're number 1 in the nation in total offense. They're all over the stats. It's amazing, and it really did happen almost overnight. I mean, Burrow was really good last year, didn't have the numbers. He started to put up numbers late last year. People forget in the Fiesta Bowl and against Texas A&M last year, he put up very good numbers like this. But Joe Brady, coming from the Saints with the passes to the tight ends, the backs, using the middle of the field, short passes like the Saints do, that's what really turned it around. And not to mention 3 really good wide receivers.
Yes, really good.
Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Terrace Marshall. And really the only one of those 3 that was good last year was Justin Jefferson.
Right.
The other 2 were, one of them, Terrace was hurt, Jamar was showing flashes. And then you got Randy Moss's son. Thaddeus Moss is a great tight end. He's already set the record most receptions by a LSU tight end that was around since 1985. So it's been a remarkable year.
Walk us through, the decision. We all know that Ed Orgeron was not the first choice to be the head coach. Okay, we all know that, but he became the head coach, and some people were not real thrilled about that. Understand that, but the decision that he had to make. I mean, 2 years ago, got Joe Burrow to come, brought in the kicker and all that, but he had to make the decision to radically change the offense after a 10-win season. Because a lot of coaches, they win 10 games, Glenn. It's like, we're okay, we're fine.
Really?
But Ed Orgeron had to make a decision to roll the dice after a 10-win season.
No question. He could have played it safe and kept on trying to win 9 or 10 games and go to some decent bowls. But when they lost Alabama 29-0 in 2018, he went to Steve Ensminger, his old friend. They used to coach together at McNeese. And Steve was the offensive coordinator, former LSU quarterback. He said, Steve, we got to go to the spread. And Steve said, okay, we'll hire somebody who knows how to do it. Because he was not an expert on that type of offense. And that tells you what kind of guy Steve Ensminger is and his loyalty to LSU. And they already knew Joe Brady a little bit from the previous summer because he had spoke to the team with some other Saints assistant coaches that Coach O knew, because Coach O was the Saint assistant coach right after he got fired by Ole Miss. And he's hired Greg McMahon, another Saints coach, Bill Johnson, a defensive line coach also with the Saints. So he's got a good connection with the Saints, and he took a chance on a 29-year-old Joe Brady.
Unheard of.
And it really worked. It shows Ed's guts. It shows Steve Ensminger's willingness to work with a young guy who's, could be his son. And it's worked like a dream because, most of the time those co-coordinator things, they don't work.
They hardly ever work out.
Right.
Because,
and
these are people with big egos.
Yes. Well, Ed Sminger's, he's kind of past that. He's 61 and he's not really into that. He would have been happy being the tight ends coach at LSU like he was under Coach Miles. But, Ed needed him in his interim year in 2016, and then he needed him again when Matt Canada didn't work out as offensive coordinator. He went back to Steve. So Steve's all about LSU, and he's all about making LSU better. And really, Brady's got a lot of deserved praise for this season, but Ensminger still calls a few plays too. That's and he calls passes, so he can still call it.
Let's flip over to the LSU defense because somebody who's closer to put it in context. LSU's defense came under criticism in the Ole Miss game. To me, they're coming off the Alabama win, which is one of the biggest wins in the history of the school. And, Ole Miss ran for 400 yards, and John Rice Plumlee, and we saw all of that.
He looked like Archie Manning.
Oh, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. But the thing about it is, it seemed like when LSU got dropped out of the number 1 slot by the committee and basically called out the defense on national television, those guys seemed to take it up a notch down the stretch, right?
Yeah, that's true. And I think Coach O at times this season mentioned bad plans on the defense, bad spacing from the defense, the middle of the field open. So there's been some coordinator issues there too with Dave Aranda, but he's fixed them, I feel. He had some injuries early in the season, but Orgeron was kind of critical of him at times, and I think he deserved to be critical of him. But he really repaired things after the Ole Miss game. They haven't played great offenses since then, Arkansas and Georgia, but Aranda tends to finish better than he starts, And, he had problems in the Texas game, too. But I think lately he's been getting it together. I mean, that was probably his best overall defense against Georgia.
Well, and when you talk to the LSU defensive coaches, I mean, obviously, when you play against Oklahoma, there's no mystery about what they want to do. And the question is, can you stop it? We've all watched Jalen Hurts grow up. We know what he can do. So the question becomes, what is the key? Do you have to commit an extra defender and maybe leave yourself vulnerable to the deep ball? I'm thinking Georgia had a couple of shots early against LSU. What are the coaches telling you about what the strategy is for Jalen Hurts?
Well, Derek Stingley, LSU's freshman cornerback who gave up a couple touchdowns in that Alabama game in man-to-man coverage, he's going to be man-to-man on CeeDee Lamb, the great Oklahoma wide receiver who's from Opelousas, by the way. And Coach O feels like he missed one there. But he wants Stingley to play man-to-man because he doesn't want to double cover or have a safety back there, because then you're vulnerable to Jalen Hurts running the ball. So this is the best dual action quarterback that they will have played this season, no question, and they've had problems with running quarterback. So that's going to be a challenge, and Stingley has got his work cut out for him with Lamb for sure. But they have another good cornerback on the other side in Christian Fulton. Grant Delpit is a great safety, so Jacoby Stevens. So they got the players to do it. It could be an alignment issue, which they've struggled with at times.
You watched LSU win a national championship in New Orleans in 2003. You watched them win it again in New Orleans in 2007. Didn't work out so well in 2011 season, but if LSU gets by this game tomorrow, regardless of who's on the other side, Clemson or Ohio State, what is that scene going to be like?
Well, the scene in January of 2004 and January of 2008 was electric. The one in 2012 was not.
That did not go well.
No, it was almost like the game wasn't in New Orleans, So I think if they do get back to that game, you're going to see it back like that, because this time, they have an offense. This team's not going to be shut out.
Well, okay. All I remember in that game is, Alabama shut them out, and Bobby Hebert took over the press conference when it was all over.
He did.
Oh, goodness. Well, Glenn Guilbeau, it's always good to be with you, my friend. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you at the ballpark. Thank you.
Happy New Year to you.
All right, Glenn Guilbeau, USA Today, Louisiana. Hey, we got to take a break. We're going to come back and talk to Barry Trummel. All right, welcome back to the College Football Hall of Fame. And, folks, again, if you haven't been here, you need to come. There's a lot of stuff here. And later on tomorrow, as a matter of fact, we will have the College Football Playoff semifinals from Atlanta, Georgia. All right, everybody's back, and we've been having a lot of fun here. And we're going to have some fun right now with my friend Barry Trummel of the Daily Oklahoman. Barry, how are you, my friend? Happy New Year.
Well, thanks, Tony. I'm enjoying your city here in the capital of Georgia.
Well, that's why we are here. Well, let's talk about the Oklahoma Sooners. Somebody told me yesterday during media day they're talking to Lincoln Riley and they're talking to Jalen Hurts, and they said, I don't think the guys at Oklahoma are very happy with us in the media right now. They have got a Marty Smith called it, they're a little salty. Why are they salty?
Well, they've been hearing not just for 3 weeks, but really for the better part of 3 years that they're not worthy of beating the best in the SEC. And frankly, the criticism is valid because they haven't done it. They lost to Georgia 2 years ago, lost to Alabama last year, and 4 years ago lost to Clemson in the Orange Bowl semifinal. So the Sooners have become regulars in this thing, but they haven't advanced. And the Big 12, which means Oklahoma, is the only conference that hasn't won a game in the 6 years of the playoffs. So they're a little tired of hearing that. There's an easy way to get people to quit saying that. Asking them not to talk about it is not the way. You got to win the game. So that's when that talk is going to stop, is when Oklahoma finally wins one of these.
Well, and the criticism, of course, deals with the defense, because the offense has been tremendous. You go back to the Georgia game in the Rose Bowl after the 2017 season. That was a game that Oklahoma seemingly had control of right before halftime, and then Georgia sort of came storming back. They hire Alex Grinch to fix the defense. What's the assessment? I can tell that it's better. Is it good enough? Maybe not. But what's your assessment of the defensive changes?
It's better. It's it's probably a little bit better than the 17 defense. The 18 defense was just awful.
Right.
Might have been the worst in the Big 12, which is saying something. But it's not back to where it was. In 15, Oklahoma had a good defense. They
Right.
had the best defense in the Big 12 and really didn't have this reputation of no defense yet. So it's going to take a while to build it back. They don't have the players that they need. But Grinch has installed a good attitude, a good mentality, a scheme that seems to work pretty well. So this is a better defense than say, what we saw in the Orange Bowl last year by a mile.
And when you talk to Alex Grinch and the defensive coaches, obviously they are playing against. They played a great offense in Georgia. This is the best offense the SEC has ever seen. Statistically, there's no argument to that. What's the key? What's the key for Oklahoma from a defensive standpoint? You don't stop Joe Burrow. You can hope to slow him down. They probably don't have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but they've got players playing at running back. What's the key for the Oklahoma defense?
Well, I think the key for the Oklahoma defense is the same as the key to win this game. I think the Sooners have to win the turnover battle. And I know LSU hasn't been turning the ball over. It's not like, that they've been a turnover machine. Burrow doesn't throw many interceptions. They don't fumble. But Alex Grinch arrived in Norman saying that's the key to defense, is take the ball away from the other team. And he's preached turnovers, and they haven't really gotten a lot of takeaways. Been very low in the Big 12, very low nationally. It's not been a great takeaway defense. That's got to happen Saturday. That's how they can win this game. If they win the turnover battle by, say, 2, they're going to be in the ball game.
Right.
If they don't win the turnover battle, they probably won't be in the game. If they lose the turnover battle, they'll get avalanched.
Right.
I think that's its key. You never know when when a defense might rise up and get some turnovers. They haven't done much. They've been better the last 3 or 4 games, but still, it's not been a takeaway defense, and that's got to happen against LSU.
Back-to-back Heisman Trophy quarterbacks, back-to-back transfers. Jalen Hurts comes to Oklahoma, and I think a lot of us who watched Jalen Hurts play those 3 years at Alabama, I said, okay, now tell me how this is going to work, how Lincoln Riley's going to take his offense and adapt it to Jalen's skill set, which is clearly different than those other 2 guys. What do you see? What has Lincoln Riley done to sort of take what Jalen Hurts can do and adapt it to his system?
Well, he's done a couple things. One is the first half of the season, Jalen Hurts was throwing phenomenal, and I was on Paul's show in September or early October. I said, hey, Paul, you never told us this guy could throw like this, for crying out loud. I think he had, through 3 games, he had 12 incompletions and 9 touchdown passes. And then 20 touchdowns and 3 picks through 7 games. Since then, though, teams have adjusted, and they've sort of made Oklahoma run the ball because they realize, hey, they can pass, and Jalen's become more of a runner. He's carried the ball this season, or these last 6 games. He's carried more than Billy Sims carried in 78 and 79 when he was the Heisman Trophy winner and runner-up in back-to-back years. So the thing that impresses me about Riley and Hurts is the way they've adjusted, not just in August and September to Hurts' skill set, but the way they've also adjusted on the fly, the way defenses have changed on them. Now, this Oklahoma offense, I know everybody's saying, top 2 offenses in America, and maybe it is. This Oklahoma offense is not as good as the Baker Mayfield offense or the Kyler Murray offense. So this is not, the people that are saying, hey, this could be a 56-45 game. I don't think so. I don't think Oklahoma is capable of doing, say, what Baker Mayfield did to Georgia or even what Kyler Murray did to Alabama the last 3 quarters. I don't think that can happen. I think Oklahoma's got to try to win a game in the high 20s or mid-20s or maybe 31-28. But this is an Oklahoma offense that's got to grind it out. Right. I think they're going to run the ball more than people expect. Jalen Hurts, Kennedy Brooks will have a ton of carries. And you won't see 30, 40 passes from the Sooners.
Well, and that's the thing. Again, the book on LSU finally became, in the SEC, the book on LSU finally became Auburn held them to 23 points and had a chance to win that game. And so if you could hold them high 20s, maybe low 30s, but high 20s, you would have a chance. And if there is a pathway for Oklahoma, that looks like it's it.
Yeah, and you know what? This Sooner team has done things that the past 2 have not. They've grinded out huge, long drives. I mean, 13, 14-play drives against Baylor, which has a really good defense. And they've gone ball control. And even when they were down to Baylor at whatever it was, 31-10 at halftime, 28-3 at one point, they didn't get in a hurry. They didn't spread out and throw it all over. They stayed with the running game. So they believe in that running game, and I think that's what they'll have to try to do. If you give Joe Burrow 14 possessions, he's probably going to get 49 points on you. So I recommend not giving him 14 possessions. Give him about 10, and maybe you can hold him to 28 and see what happens.
Well, I had a coach tell me, Barry Tremble from the Daily Oklahoman's with us. I had a coach tell me, he says, look, when you play LSU, if you go back to the SEC championship game, Georgia had some deep shots early that they didn't convert. And this guy said, look, C.D. Lamb is really, really good. And there are going to be some opportunities for Lamb to get behind that secondary, and Jalen's going to have to make those shots when they present themselves.
Yes, and Jalen in the first half of the year, his deep balls were fantastic. Now, the second half of the year, his deep passing game has not been as effective. I don't know if that's caused by defensive adjustments or he just hasn't made the throws. But any chance, C.D. Lamb is Oklahoma's best football player.
Right.
And, it's no knock on Jalen Hurts. I actually said the same thing last September before Kyler Murray became what we saw. So he's the best weapon they've got, not just in this game, but he's probably the best Oklahoma receiver ever. So, he's a phenomenal talent, a top 10 NFL draft pick. They can't really win. I don't see an avenue to win this game without C.D. Lamb making some plays. Now, the good news for Oklahoma is they don't have to throw it deep to him because he's good on the screens, he's good on the short stuff, but certainly going deep. He's a big, tall kid with all kinds of great leaping ability and agility. So going deep is a good option, but they do need Jalen to make those throws, and he hasn't been great at that since October.
All right. Always good stuff from Barry Tremble, Daily Oklahoma. And Barry, thanks for being with us.
You bet, Tony. Thanks
Appreciate
a lot.
you. All right, we're going to take a break now. When we come back, we're here to take your calls at the top of the hour here in downtown Atlanta, Georgia, where tomorrow at 4 o'clock, number 1 LSU versus number 4 Oklahoma, the semifinals of the college football playoff at the Chick-fil-A Bowl at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Beautiful place to have a game. So, welcome back. This is Tony Barnard sitting in for Paul Finebaum. We'll be here till the top of the hour to take your calls at 855-242-7285. And now that we have some calls, let's go to Larry in Shelby. Hello, Larry.
What's up? What's up, Tony?
It is all good, man. What's going on with you? What are you doing on this Friday night other than talking to me?
Oh, man, I've been cruising, brother. We opened a Taco Bell in Columbiana. Yeehaw! Went up there and got me some Bell, son, with Bud Light.
Attaboy.
Good. Hey, check it out, man. I was watching Burroughs on a interview, and I noticed a trophy in the background. Who won that? I was trying to remember. What coach was that won that?
Which one are you talking about, Larry?
Trophy. The glass football.
Yes.
Behind Burroughs when he was doing the interview the other day. Who won that?
That was probably an Alabama trophy, was it not?
No, it was the LSU trophy.
Oh, I got
the national championship. Oh, I remember what coach won it. It was Saban.
Ah, yes. That was the 2003 season, yes.
Yeah, God. You let me tell you, that guy, Gary, you had on. Look, I got news for you, Gary. I don't know what you're coming from with this, Tony. I don't know where you're coming from with this, what Oklahoma did and Kyler Murray did to Alabama for 3 quarters. But, hello, I think we won that game, and I think they did come back a little in the second half. But I think we pretty well handled it. So, and the thing about Bama, we have to get beat usually by a Heisman Trophy winner or a Heisman. The only quarterback we've lost to that I thought was a disappointment was Nix, Patrick. His son, Nix, and Bo Nix. And but everybody, we can lose 2 games, Tony, and we get talked about more than teams that win national championships. I mean, most times teams lose 2 games, they don't get no recruits. But we scored, and I'll do a prediction because I know that's what this is about. I'm going to take Oklahoma because I believe that quarterback for Oklahoma that plays for us is going to do it, man. He's got heart. And Saban trained that boy, and when you come out of Saban's camp, you're good. And,
we know who you're going to be pulling for, Larry. We understand that. That'll be awesome. That will be awesome. Hey, listen, thanks for calling. I got to move on to the next caller, but thanks for calling, my friend. Let's go to Ken in South Carolina. Ken, it's Tony Barnhart. How are you?
Brother Tony, you've been a big fan. I have been a big fan of yours for a long time.
Well, thank you very kindly.
Yes, sir. I got an idea about the college football playoff that I've not heard. I'd love to get your take on it. The idea has been that you can't. You got these various people. You got the MAC conference, the AAC, some of these others, and they're always going to look in. They're looking in from the outside type thing. So and then the other problem has been that the individual conferences are, they don't want to give away a championship game if you expand the playoff. So my suggestion is you take the top 5 conferences and you got 2 teams, that's 10 teams, and they both, but based on that thing right there, they both qualify for the championship. In other words, they're in the championship, and so the winner is still part of the championship. But in other words, those 2 teams are part of the championship on its own. So you got 10 teams, and then you go out and you get 6 others, and you got the committee that can pick those 6. After the championship games, and see, those 6 can come from like a MAC conference plays another conference championship type thing. So you could have a mixture situation there, and you could also have those games from those 6 occur before or right after the championship games in like the SEC and the other conferences. So you start out with 16 teams, but obviously a championship game is going to knock it down, and you'll have 8 teams. You'll have all 5 power conferences, and you'll have 3 teams coming from the non-power 5, and then the committee ranks those 8 teams as to who plays who, and so you got 8 teams.
Well, that's a fascinating way of looking at it, Ken. My gut feeling, but just based on people I talk to, if we ever have an 8-team playoff, I think the big boy conferences are going to absolutely insist that their conference champions get in. And then maybe you give one slot to the group of 5 conferences and have a committee pick the other 2. I think that is probably going to be the more likely course when we come down the road. But it's a fascinating topic. My own belief is that we're not going to get to even a discussion of the 8-team playoff until we get closer to the end of the current 12-year contract. We're finishing up the first 6 years of that contract. 6 more to go, but again, we'll see.
Oh, wow.
It will absolutely. It'll be a fascinating thing to watch. Ken, I appreciate you calling. Call us back, okay?
Yes, sir. Good talking to you.
All right, let's go to Tracy in Baton Rouge. Tracy, how are you doing?
Hello, Mr. Football. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm sitting here in Atlanta, Georgia, talking ball and living the dream.
I wish I was there. Oh, my goodness. I'd be so excited. But I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow. Can't wait. Listen, I wanted to ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you think that Coach E and his partner there have some calls up their sleeves that we haven't seen yet?
Tracy, it's a great question, and I think the answer is always yes. When you have this much time to put together a game plan, remember LSU played last in the SEC championship game on December 7th right here in Atlanta. That's 21 days ago almost. Right. And when you have that much time to prepare, you literally do sit at the table and go, okay, let's come up with a few things that we haven't done this year, that nobody's seen, put them in our back pocket, and if we get the right situation, we will we'll pull them out of our pocket and use them. It absolutely, every coaching staff does that because you may get to a point in the game. I'll never forget the Nick Saban onside kick against Clemson.
Yeah.
And that in the national championship game, that was something that Saban put in his back pocket before the game, and he said, we may use it, we may not use it. So, yes, I think the answer is Coach Ensminger and Coach Brady, Joe Brady, do have some things that they haven't run and nobody's seen.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm a firm believer that we're going to win tomorrow, but I think we need to do a little bit extra, you know.
But we will see. Tracy, I'm so glad you called. You have a Happy New Year, okay?
Thank you, and same to you.
All right. We got to take a break.
All
we come back. We will be here to wrap up this.
Reflect and make sure that it's the best thing for you. I came to college to play football, and that's the reason I left, because I thought leaving would give me the best position to play.
Coach O, you have no idea what you mean to my family.
What is it like to make your head coach cry?
Yeah, I didn't think Coach O would ever cry, and I didn't think I would ever cry either, but that was a very emotional moment and an overwhelming moment for us.
You took a chance on me, not knowing if I could play or not.
Could you feel his emotion?
Yeah, I saw it in his face. He's a super tan guy, and he was getting a little red, and I could see he was holding it back the best he could.
And to LSU, I sure hope they give him a lifetime contract. He deserves it.
This new look offense led by Joe Burrow. Touchdown, Tigers!
LSU scoring so many points so quickly.
Joe, when did you know this offense was going to be a problem for people?
First drive against Georgia Southern.
Touchdown LSU, electric to start.
We went right down the field, scored on an RPO, and I said, yeah, it's here. It's time to go.
LSU looks unstoppable.
How good can this offense still be?
We still got 2 more games to prove it. Our goal is to get that ring.
All right, welcome back to Atlanta, Georgia, at the College Football Hall of Fame. There's an exhibit featuring the LSU uniforms, a couple of different helmets, 150th anniversary of college football. Been special. All right, everybody's back. We're here to the top of the hour here on the Paul Finebaum Show to take your calls at 855-242-7285. We've got a couple of calls to round it out. Let's start with Angie from South Carolina. How are you, Angie?
I'm the
Angie,
first-time caller.
Thank you, Angie.
And I am just got a question, 2 questions for you. What are your thoughts about the fact that the national champs, being undefeated, weren't back rated number 1 and to start with? And what are your thoughts about their chances to go all the way this time?
We're talking about
number 1, Clemson.
We're talking about Clemson. I think Clemson right now is the team that you don't want to play. Obviously they dropped down to number 3, and the other teams ahead of them are playing well. But you sit there and you look at all their skill people. You look at Travis Etienne. You look at Trevor Lawrence. You look at the guys on defense and what they have done to rebuild that defense. And Dabo is saying, little old Clemson, little old us. Nobody wants us to be here. I think he's playing. He's getting his team motivated, and I'm picking them to beat Ohio State. A lot of people tell me I'm wrong about that, but I think they're going to beat Ohio State. And if you got an LSU-Clemson game, LSU-Oklahoma, but I think LSU's going to win. I think it'll be a fascinating game. But Clemson is absolutely capable of winning the national championship. I don't think there's any question about that, Angie.
Honest. Oh, awesome. Well, I appreciate your thoughts, and I appreciate it.
All right, thanks for calling. Happy New Year. Let's go to Dwight in Indiana. Hello, Dwight.
How you doing, Tony?
I am doing well. Beautiful Friday night in Atlanta, Georgia.
I bet it is. I just want to get in touch with you. You said something earlier today. You still do a show with Doug Matthews?
I do, yeah. Doug Matthews and I have been friends for a long time since he was an assistant coach at Tennessee. He's been in Nashville for a long, long time, the outskirts of Nashville, and he and I started doing a radio show together every Saturday morning about 10 a.m. Eastern time. We've done it, a long time, more than 10 years, and so we have a whole lot of fun.
Station are you on now? Because I used to call in down there with Bob Bell and Bill King, and Doug was around a lot, and I knew he was in some kind of sporting goods business.
Yes, he started a sporting goods business, and his sons help him run it now. And Doug does radio on the side. I better not use the SEC network to give out the call letters, but if you do a search on Doug Matthews, I promise you will find it.
I will. Well, I know Bill's in New York?
You know what? I do not know. I do not know.
Well, the last I knew, he was doing recruiting like he always did. And I imagine Bob's passed away by now.
Right. Oh, I remember Bill King. Bill King very, very well. Good guy. Knows the game as well as anybody. All right. Thank you. Let's go to Fred in Florida. Fred, what part of Florida are you in tonight?
Well, Central Florida, near the Ocala-Nashville Forest. And
okay.
I have a good words to say for you, and I'll let it go. And it is very pure. It's seldom that I praise a sportscaster. That's a fact. I can do the game myself. You forgive me if I talk slow. I'm 88 years old, and I see maybe the NCAA has ruined football in the playoffs, and we do not try to select the best team. You take the winner, and therefore we need 16 teams playing. It's a team like UCF, if you're familiar with them in Central Florida.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Contend with anybody because as I've looked at all of these teams, the smaller college teams, there are so many minority, if you want to put it, high school football great players. You can look on any of these teams and you marvel at the physical ability that has changed college football. Florida has recruited, like in this year, a player, and I'm sure he's an outstanding player, and he's over 6 feet tall, 6'4", and something like 300 and some odd pounds. If you're 230 pounds along the offensive line, you're too small. It's gone from bigness to quickness. And what I want, Clemson should surely beat, my prayer is they will beat Ohio State. Ohio State is basically out recruiting and everybody. They're not built, they're going on superior recruits. But what is the key to Clemson? They're playing South Carolina players, Georgia players, the team. If you look at Nick Saban, he does not recruit Alabama. Auburn does, and every school that you look at, Florida, Texas A&M, they're full of Texas and Florida people. You look at Alabama, there are not many Alabama people on there. They recruit using Nick Saban, who has he has a recruit in every town based on the fact that they have Catholic schools and so forth. I won't go into that. But the point of the matter is it will change with the Clemson beating Ohio State, and it will end. It's going to be a significant game played when Alabama plays Michigan State, University of Michigan. That coach is building a team the right way. He can't out-recruit, but he is when you look at his game, he's got the plays to win.
All right, Fred. Fred, I am sorry to interrupt you. We are wrapping up the show. I'm against a hard break. Thank you for calling. Hope you'll call again. Folks, it's been a wonderful 2 days here at the College Football Hall of Fame.
I don't think you're sitting here at the college football playoff if your team hasn't gotten quite a bit better. I think we have. I think we've had different challenges throughout the year, and we've been able to face most of them and come out on the good end. So probably more for me right now would be the preparation we've had in the last several weeks. Our goal has been to play our very best game, and we put forth a schedule that had that and only that in mind. And our players, coaches, everybody have executed that extremely well. So that's been our goal from day one. When we found out that we were going to be in the playoff and playing a really good LSU team was let's play our very best. And I think we've done the work to get that done.
Obviously, he was a young player when we played him. They're doing more things with him. He's the leader of this football team. He looks like to me he's the heart and soul of this football team. I have to commend him to going into a new situation and obviously have won it over by, I'm assuming, the way he works. Knowing him and his character and what he's done and working with Coach Riley, I think that those guys have a tremendous system, a tremendous program. He's very smart. He's very difficult to stop, but I'm going to tell you what, this scheme makes it tough. And those guys they block more people in the box than you have, and then they have C.D. Lamb sitting out there. It's a very difficult scheme. They know how to call the right plays, but he runs the ball like a big tailback back there and also throws the ball well. And also has come back from a deficit to lead his team to victory. I do believe he's a great leader. I think we were a little surprised by the Ole Miss quarterback. We knew he could run. They had a scheme that really got to us a little bit. We weren't as prepared for that scheme as we thought we'd be, and he was faster and they were better. I don't think this is going to be the case. That doesn't mean we're going to stop him. We know this guy's a great player. We know they have a great scheme. We know they can make plays. Now, we're just not going to shut down this offense, you know what I mean? But we need to be in the right place at the right time. We need to play our blocks. We need to tackle in space, and we need to keep coming after it. This is going to be a war. This is going to be one of the hardest offenses we've tried to stop since I've been here at LSU. And Jalen's one of the best players. We know that. He's beat us twice already. So he has the ultimate respect of the head coach here and everybody on our staff.